I didn't have my mic on. Hello, world. Episode 75, I think. I don't even know. I gotta check. But anyway, today I had Stewart Cowan on the podcast. Very good musician out of Amarillo, Texas. Plays, I don't know what the type of music you would call it. Folk music, bluegrassy, a little country sounding. But really talented artist. Has his own website, stewartcowan.bandcamp.com. I'll drop a link there. And he's also on YouTube. I played his song Strangers on the intro. Then I played his song Bitch and Moan on the outro. I'll drop links for both. But yeah, check out his website. Check out all that good stuff. Thank you for listening as always. Got some upcoming mics. So check those out. Just come see me, buy some shirts or just keep listening. I appreciate all the support as always. This is brought to you by Dragster Tubes. Go to dragstertubes.com or you can go to Green Gorilla or you can go to Facebook, Instagram. The Instagram page is really cool. Telescopic Paparosa tubes. They're pre-rolled, so you just stuff it up in there. It works like a straw. You can extend it, and it's really easy. Pre-rolled for you. You don't got to do the work. Simple and satisfying. And it's also brought to you by Spitefully Spicy. Go on Instagram, Spitefully Spicy. It's a bunch of salsa made by Colin Robinson, very talented chef, very talented comedian. So go on there, DM him, Spitefully Spicy Salsa. He's got like 10 different flavors, and they're the bomb. And as always, No Third Lane. Go to nothirdlane.com. At some point, they'll be up here. But hey, they've made shirts for us, Yellow City Comedy. We've got red and yellow, and then we've got some more merch coming up soon. And also, that's about it. We've probably got 4 or 5 shows coming up in April. So we're going to be busy in April. May, we're going to hit Fort Collins. So got a lot of exciting things coming up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for any and all support. And yeah, this podcast is going great. I had a great episode. Me and Stewart, like I said, he's a musician. He's also a school teacher, teaches English. We kind of didn't get much into the music side. We just started talking about conservation, Colorado, the environment, politics. So it kind of like took a turn I didn't expect it to. But that's the beauty of this podcast. It just goes, and it doesn't matter, and there's no rules, and there's no limits. So thank you for listening. Please enjoy. This song is called Strangers by Stewart Cowan. It's Cowan, and I'll leave a link down there. It's a YouTube video, so check it out. Very great song. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the episode.
To find I still love, 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 love. All the times you made me mad, I was so messed up and confused. Like when
This is the part of the song that changes the most, I guess.
Is it about to transition?
It's pretty much this all the way through. The only thing that's different is like a couple little synth sounds here and there, but it stays pretty soft.
What book are you reading in the video?
Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Yeah, I was into that at the time.
That was a tough read for me, but I was also in high school, so that might have been why.
It's not my favorite. I had read East of Eden before I read that. See, it's just like this little bit of synth.
That's cool.
But I didn't like Grapes of Wrath as much as I liked East of Eden.
I don't even think I've heard of East of Eden. Is that like same time period?
It's same author, and I think he wrote it after Grapes of Wrath. It's set before Grapes of Wrath, or at least the time period in the book. And anyway, it's just a great book. Both of them are great, but East of Eden is like my favorite book of all time.
Nice.
And so following it up with Grapes of Wrath, I thought I was going to love Grapes of Wrath just as much as I liked East of Eden, but I really didn't. It was just like, oh yeah, this is a good book, but it's no East of Eden.
Is it the same author?
Yeah, John Steinbeck.
Nice. Interesting. So what's East of Eden is like the period before the Great Depression?
It's like it happens like post Civil War, and it kind of follows two families as they are just living in Salinas Valley in California. That's where John Steinbeck's. Yeah, it's like slightly. Some of the characters in it are at least real life people that were part of John Steinbeck's family, but the story is completely fictitious. So anyway, his family went and settled in Salinas Valley in California, and so then the book kind of takes place at the time that his family first moved there, I guess. So this is like the mid 1800s or something like that. And then the Civil War happens, and then it's just kind of about these two families and how they like are connected to each other after the Civil War. And it's a really crazy book.
That's interesting.
Have we already started recording?
Yeah. See, I started recording during the song, and I was like, that'd be a cool, like, unorthodox way to start the podcast.
Nice. Cool.
Because I like to do things randomly. I'm here with Stewart Cowan.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Musician, teacher, a man of probably many other crafts I don't know about. He reads, obviously, so that's good.
Yeah.
This is episode 74.
74.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Good
Yeah.
times.
74.
Yeah, I record too much, maybe. Or maybe not enough. I don't know. There's no rules when it comes to podcasting.
Nice. I would say if you're at episode 74, you're doing all right. You're moving right along.
Good. So yeah, you've been. How long have you been like putting music out?
Well, let's see. So I recorded my first song when I was 15 years old, and so I'm 25 now, so that was 10 years ago.
Nice.
And
I'm also 25.
oh wow, nice.
I wasn't sure what age you were.
Yeah, I know. We're at that age where it's like you know people, and they could either be older, same age, or younger. Typically at this age, I feel like most people that I meet that are new are younger than me. You know, like at that point now, where it's like, oh, the people that are my age aren't going out and meeting new people anymore. Like,
Yeah, they're all married.
Yeah.
With kids. Now, someone told me I look like. They said I gave off dad vibes. And that's why I look older. And that's crazy because I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a compliment. I'm fatherly. I don't know.
All my students at school always think that I'm like in my 30s. And
see, I could see 30. Like very young 30s.
Yeah. See, I'm, and I feel like I'm still, you know, I mean, I guess I'm in my mid 20s, but I feel like I'm really in my early 20s still to a certain degree, you know. So anyway, adulthood has not happened the way that I thought that it would.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think it does for anyone.
Yeah, I think that's the case for pretty much everyone. It's just
except for those people who like knew what they wanted to do in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then followed through with it. The 1%, you know.
Right, the doctors. I feel like and I feel like it is the doctors. Like the kids that I know that are doctors were kind of destined to be doctors from the moment they started school.
Which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the opposite. It's like, I guess I'll be a doctor.
I guess I'll just, yeah, this is something I guess I could do.
Fuck it. Selling drugs didn't work out, so I became a doctor.
Yeah.
They should let you know what their GPA is before they operate on you.
I did almost become a lawyer, and I feel like adulthood would be vastly different if I had gone that route right after I graduated from college. That was kind of the thing that everybody was pushing me to be growing up.
Really?
Was like become a lawyer. Like it was like my granddad always said, "Oh, I should have been a lawyer." My dad and my uncles were always like, "Oh yeah, we should have been lawyers."
That's a high thing to push towards.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know. When I was growing up, I definitely had the feeling, you know, like so many other kids I was taught, you know, you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. And while I had that, I don't know. I've kind of gone through a bunch of different phases of what I wanted to be, but being a lawyer was kind of always the thing that was pressed on me. It was like my mom would always say, "Oh, you're going to make a great lawyer one day," you know? And so that's kind of what I had in mind. But when I got to college, the first thing, all I really wanted to do since I was like 17 years old was just do music. But
nice.
Anyway, I went to college because initially for music, and then afterwards it was like, oh no, I'm just in college just because that's what you're supposed to do. You people can't see this, but I'm doing the air quotes.
Air quotes.
Anyway, it's what you're supposed to do after high school, so just kind of became something that I'd already put in 2 years and figured I'll go ahead and get my degree and then maybe go to law school. I had a girlfriend at the time too, and so we were thinking about getting serious. But anyway, all of that, after I started working at a law firm, it was just like, nope, I don't want any part of this.
Didn't enjoy it?
No. And, there's a lot of different kinds of law, but I was working, I don't know, it just didn't feel right for me. At the time and the place and everything that I was doing, just so many sirens were going off in my head saying, no, leave this, don't do this, you hate this, go away.
Good, that's good.
Yeah.
You don't want to get stuck in that.
Exactly.
Because that would suck.
Yeah, see, and that's exactly it. Like, I couldn't, like we were talking about people who grow up and they're meant to be doctors or whatever, they just know that what they're going to do. I'd always known that I was going to second guess the lawyer thing all throughout my life. And I figured, what, if I'm not 100% behind this, I'm not going to put, $100,000 into getting a law degree only to keep hating myself for it,
And then you got to work and pay that law degree off.
Exactly.
And you can't quit. You get used to a lifestyle and you're stuck there.
Yeah.
And you hate your job for the rest of your life.
See, that's the thing that, aren't we all just trying to avoid that? It's so,
it's
hard for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard for me to work a job and not wish that I was doing something else always, almost.
Yeah, I know. That's why I've, thought about leaving my job and, looking around at other jobs, and it's I'm just going to care the same amount wherever I go. So
right.
It's is it worth going somewhere else?
Yeah.
Because I'm still going to be fuck this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just how it feels right now.
Yeah, you can't enjoy, I don't know. See, the thing is, I think for people like us too, I imagine, I'm going to make an assumption here that you probably want to see your comedy and everything, your podcast, you want it to go further than where it's at. Are you one of those people? Or
Absolutely.
Okay, see, I think that most people that get into any kind of entertainment, you ultimately want to see yourself, playing or performing for bigger crowds and bigger places, traveling around, making it your life and your lifestyle, but it's really hard to do at the beginning when you're in the amateur phase, or even if you're still, you've got the experience, but there's, the answer's not there for, there's no clear-cut path to being a performer like there is to being a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. So you end up just taking all these different jobs where, this teaching is the first career type job that I've ever really seriously considered, because I have to do all this coursework and stuff on top of being a teacher so that I can become a fully qualified teacher. So it's taken a level of commitment that I've never put into any other job before. So it's a really, I've had to really struggle with that. Do I want to be a performer or do I want to teach thing for the last 6 months? That's kind of what I've been.
Do both.
See, I'm still trying to, and I'm actually, I've been surprised at how well I've been able to, I figured that once I started teaching, there was not going to be any kind of playing or anything like that. But I still I played the Valentine's Day show at the 806, and then I played.
It was awesome.
I've been playing a couple of the open mics there, when I can, and then Six Car Pub does an open mic.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I played there a couple of times. This is a really cool place. I don't know how often you've been up there.
I've only been there once, but it was really cool.
Yeah,
the food was good too. We only had the bar menu, but that was still pretty good. It's a music open mic they have. I thought you just got paid to do a show there.
No, they do a weekly open mic on Thursdays now. It hasn't been going on for very long. Nice. It's hosted by Daniel Davis. He is the owner and operator of Sad Monkey Media. This is a multimedia marketing company. Anyway, so he's done a lot of work with Six Car Pub, and so anyway, he's got his own little open mic. He's got his own band too, called Fine and Dandy, and they're really cool. But he's been hosting it, and then he was out one time, so he asked me if I would host it, and so that was a lot of fun going up there, and that's my first time in a long time hosting an open mic, and so I've still got time to do music outside of school, but definitely limited.
I feel that. I don't know. That's tough too, because I feel like I've kind of always wanted to be like a teacher, you know.
Yeah.
So that's like a thing that's always been in my head. Like it'd be fun to just like hang out with kids all day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some of them probably suck, but for the majority of the time, it's got to be, you know,
I definitely,
decent time.
yeah, it's something that I definitely, had thought about doing several times. It was always kind of like the plan B or C of, what I was going to do with my life. It's like, well, if, all else fails, I could become a teacher.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like, I could just go get a master's. I wouldn't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I could always fall back and just be like, I'm a college professor, you know.
More than anything, I think deciding to become a teacher was more of a decision to invite some stability into my life. Just because I was, before teaching, I was living all over the place and working all sorts of different odd jobs that were all temporary, like 2 or 3 month jobs, and then I would move on to, whatever, wherever, doing A, B, or C. And so when I moved back to Amarillo, like after the last thing that I did, which was in 2018, I was, the summer of 2018, I was working in Colorado for a conservation corps.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Sounds cool.
And I really enjoyed it. And but I was my project that I was on had ended, so I decided that I was going to go to Fort Worth and see what kind of opportunities were there. I thought that I had this job guaranteed there because I knew a guy at the school who I used to work for when I worked at Texas Tech. So I thought I'll get a job at the University of North Texas in their billing department because it was a kind of work that I had done for like 3 years while I was in school. And I thought, I'll get it. And then I moved out there and nothing happened. So after a month, I spent all my money and
Damn.
I was just like, I was never in a job where I was making a whole lot of money. So I just was there crashing at my sister's and a friend's house. And then finally I just ran out of money, and none of the people that I was applying for jobs like Guitar Center and even restaurant jobs. I got my like TABC license and stuff just so I could get a job, but I was not lucky out in Fort Worth at all. And so,
Really?
Yeah, it kind of forced me to move back, and
How long were you applying to jobs? Like
for like
you
2
didn't-
months.
And you didn't get a call back from any of them?
No.
Damn.
Not until like 3 months later after I had already moved
That's
back
scary,
and started
man.
it was really bad. See, because it was really stupid though for me. I could have stayed in Colorado and got on another project, and I don't really have anything after Colorado. I knew that project was going to end, and there wasn't going to be any more work after November of 2018 because that's when they closed down, and so I just kind of on a whim thought, okay, now that this project's done, I'm going to go to, it's Fort Worth. It's the land of opportunity in Texas. And
Kind of.
yeah, right. And so I thought, but no, I didn't get any kind of job.
That's scary, man.
Yeah, it sucked. So yeah, I was just broke and I moved back and, at the time, I was just basically living out of my truck. That's what I was doing when I was in Colorado. And so I was homeless, broke for the most part. Homeless, I was able to always crash at like some family member's place. And then, so when I came back, I just decided, no, I need to get like a job where I have consistency and I'm getting a good paycheck. And so I started looking into what it would take to become a teacher, and it happened a lot more quickly than I thought that it would. So
I have so many questions.
sorry.
Okay. So, where were you working at in Colorado? The conservation place?
So yeah, it's called the Western Colorado Conservation Corps. They're based out of...
Yeah, what city is it in?
It's based out of Grand Junction. So this is like western slope. It's over like towards Utah and all of that. But where I was actually at when I was there was a town like 2 hours away called Gunnison, which is a really popular like tourist area for Texans. Everywhere in Colorado is a popular tourist area. There's just so much to see and so much to do. But I was in Gunnison, Colorado, or at least that's where my team was based out of. And we would work in the just surrounding mountain areas looking for invasive plant species. And trying to get rid of them, and also just kind of documenting what kind of plant species were in the area, looking for anything that was out of the ordinary, because a lot of the times we were walking into like places that were run by the Forest Service that nobody had walked into in years. You know?
Really?
Yeah, so we would check out places that the team that I was on, it was really cool. We got to go see some stuff that nobody else has seen in a long time, because
That's
they're closed
insane.
off to the public. Yeah. And so the Forest Service goes out there occasionally, you know, but there's these huge tracts of land that like nobody really does anything on. So you just kind of go out there.
Really? Is there?
And-
Do they have that in Texas as well?
No, there's like no public land except for like state parks in Texas.
So there's just like long things of public land in Colorado that no one like
it's
really
like,
knows why.
It's like more public land than, or just.
Is
there's-
that to
there's-
conserve nature, or what is that exactly?
Yeah, partially. A lot of it is just. I mean, yeah, I would say the majority of it is just nature conservation stuff. See, the way that it works in Texas is so much of the land is privatized, where you know it's owned by farmers, and it's been owned for generations and generations and generations. And there's a lot of land in Colorado that simply isn't privatized just because you can't farm on it, you know. And it's like the mountains; you can't really farm in the mountains, but they use it for all sorts of different things. But it's just so that nobody can, you know, buy out the land, and then I think it's better the way that it's run, where the government owns most of the land out there. Some of it's state owned, and then some of it's federally owned.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. But like the land that we were on was federally owned, because it was run by the U.S. Forest Service, and so a lot of it is open to the public, where you can just go out there at any time and just kind of do whatever you want. I mean, just as long as you're following the laws, you know. But when you go out to these places, nobody's out there, and then there are some places that are just completely fenced off from the public, and we would get to go into those places too. And
So
that was
if
really
I
cool.
wanted to like hide a dead body, you could give me like the exact
good
spot.
I could show you. Yeah.
Cool. I'll hit you up later.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting. No, that is crazy though. Like, that's a good idea. I mean, I feel like we should probably do that more often than not. Like, have some land where people can't, you know, throw condoms and beers on.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, in those places, it's really cool. You know, if you're just an outdoorsy person, you like to go camp and stuff. And that was really why I moved out there anyway, is I wanted to get away and be...
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was really cool. But
I love Colorado.
yeah, same. It was, it was really beautiful. And it was nice during the summer. You know, it gets cool at night, like... But at the same time, it, you know, not too cold. But anyway, yeah, I think that with Texas, though, it's just a lot of this land is just boring and kind of plain, you know.
Super
So,
flat,
but
yellow.
I do wish more of it was.
Amarillo.
Yeah, I wish more of it was public, because, you know, you just drive outside of town and you can't just like go pull off somewhere.
That's true.
Like, there's no place if
yeah,
you're
you'll
on
get
the
shot.
Yeah, exactly. See, in Colorado is like I could go anywhere at any time and always be guaranteed at least a place to pull over and sleep. You know,
Really?
just on the road. Yeah,
Interesting.
you've always got like public land of some sort that's either run by the U.S. Forest Service or the Bureau of Land Management, some entity where they, you know, you don't have to have any kind of pass. Like, you can just literally drive up onto the land, find a spot, and as long as there are no signs posted up that say no camping here, you can just get stuff out and camp right there.
I bet the government's doing experiments out there, you know? Messing with aliens? I don't know.
I mean,
Hiding dead bodies?
it would not surprise me. Yeah. But
Did you run into any, like, wild animals?
oh
Like,
yeah.
Wolves or bears or anything?
Well, I was really surprised I actually didn't see a single bear the whole summer that I was there.
That's good.
I saw signs of bears, like I would see bear tracks and bear scat, and like a lot of times they claw up the trees, and you can see like the claw marks on the trees. But the perhaps more dangerous that I did see a lot of was moose. Actually, a lot of moose out there.
They're
in that
more
area.
dangerous?
Yeah, they're because the the bears that they have in Colorado, or at least in this part of Colorado, were mostly black bears, and I believe that black bears are kind of the dominant bear species in Colorado. So black bears are generally pretty timid, and they, if you just make some noise, they'll run away, and they're not the biggest kind of bear that there is.
So
you
I
definitely
should,
don't want to tangle one.
Don't want to give it a hug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But it's the moose are not afraid of anything. Like they are confrontational animals. So if you're in their area and they just don't like you, they're not going to run away like a deer or an elk or something like that. They're going to run towards you and try to kill you.
That's badass.
So yeah, that's really crazy. I mean,
They're much bigger than I initially thought.
Oh man, they're huge. It's ridiculous. It's like
they're bigger than some cars.
they're bigger in Alaska too. If you take any regular animal here or so I've been told. I've never actually been to Alaska.
No,
but I hear that
I'm
they're
pretty
like
sure
twice
Alaskan
as big.
wolves are huge. Like they're the size of full-grown humans.
Yeah, I
So-
mean that's where they've got all the really scary stuff. Is up in Alaska.
Alaska and Australia is the two places. I guess they're
Right.
both kind of isolated. Is that Alaska isolated? Not
Yeah,
really.
I would say.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's
'Cause I feel like
definitely like
Canadians stop settling after a certain point.
yeah. I mean,
So-
Alaska. That's
and then
where
Alaska's like way up
that's
there.
like North Pole. Yeah, it's got. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's a good majority of the land that's uninhabited by humans because it's just the conditions are rough up there.
So that'd be a cool conservation job.
Oh
Until
man.
you freeze to death, but it'd still be fun. Be fun for a little bit.
No, yeah. I used to be really, when I was in high school, I was really inspired by Christopher McCandless. You know who that is? Do you ever see the movie or read the book Into the Wild?
Oh yeah. That's the main character's name?
Yeah, Christopher McCandless. And his hobo name is Alexander Supertramp. But anyway, I mean, he's a person that it's a true story. This guy, went into the wilderness, like traveled all the way up to Alaska, like dropped all of his stuff, burned all his money or whatever, and left. And when I was in high school, I just thought that was the coolest thing,
Yeah,
being self-sustaining. And I mean, everybody's kind of got that fantasy, I feel like,
Yeah.
where you want to move off and
It is cool, but you can also do that and be, more prepared.
yeah.
Like there's
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's as you get older, when you look
no
at that
reason
story.
to starve on purpose. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. You look at that story, and he, was just underprepared. Going to Alaska, like, there's no immediate resources out there, and if you don't know how to live off the land, like. Especially if you're unfamiliar with the flora and fauna, which was kind of what ultimately killed him. He ate the wrong kind of
I remember that.
berry or something, and
It's starting
so
to come back to me.
it gave him dysentery or something like that. And
And I think like he shot an animal, right? And he had to waste like almost all the meat.
oh, the moose, yeah.
Yeah.
He shot a big old moose, and then he was trying to save it using just some notes that he had asked some random guy how to preserve meat after shooting it, and just wrote these notes down. And so he just had these like loose notes that he was following to try to preserve this out in the middle of the wild. And so it rotted real quickly. And
So crazy.
yeah,
Like, come on, man. No, but it is an interesting story for sure
yeah.
to go out and do that. And I think if I remember correctly, wasn't he like 50 miles away from like a city or like a state park or something?
I'm not sure.
Like,
I
there
mean,
was-
that sounds right.
There was something like relatively close to him
Yeah.
where he
Yeah.
could have gotten some help.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't as into the wild as he thought he was, because they were like, well, technically there was this thing 50 miles away, but
Well, and he couldn't have been too far because he was living out of an abandoned bus. And I imagine that an abandoned bus doesn't just get out there from, hundreds of miles away.
that's a good point. I didn't put that together as a high schooler. Yeah, that is a cool book. I feel like that book had like a message, but I don't remember exactly.
Well, the movie, I think that the message is happiness is only real when shared. That was the big thing at the end, because he's just trying to... The guy, Christopher McCandless, I know he dealt with like, a bad relationship that he had with his parents. At least that's what that was a big focus of the movie, is that he's got this strained relationship with his parents. And his sister actually released a book recently. I haven't read it, but like within the last 2 or 3 years, she like released a tell-all book about their weird relationship that they had with their parents, where his dad had like a second family or something like that, and they just grew up in a household where there was lots of fighting and stuff going on. And so he, like a lot of people, you know, like to psychoanalyze the situation and say, oh, well, he was running away from this troubled childhood and, you know, all of this stuff that was going on, which I think I would say that's probably pretty accurate, you know.
Yeah.
And then in the movie they portray it so that he's like ran away from all this stuff, but he's also like chasing this, you know, dream and just this fantasy that he's had, and then he ends up dying. And in the end, where it shows him dying, he's like thinking about his parents and running up to his parents with their arms open to him. And he's, you know, he's the reason we know so much about him is because he kept a notebook, you know, like a little journal of all of his stuff. So he's got all of these different notes, and one of the notes that he wrote in there towards the end was, happiness is only real when shared. And so that was like the point of the movie, is that, you know, he spends all of his time trying to find this perfect solitude, but he finds that happiness really only is there when you're sharing it with other people. So anyway,
That's a great point. Yeah, man.
I think there's some...
Drinking by yourself is depressing. You feel like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that there's a lot of truth to that, man. Like, I think that it's important. That's kind of what I did when I went to Colorado, was mostly to be alone. I had to, at the time, I was actually just trying to escape Amarillo and the feelings that I had living here. I was kind of feeling trapped by this place. And then moving to Colorado to be alone, I started to really... It hit me a lot harder than I thought that it would. Like, the loneliness of just being alone. Because I would drive out and I'd spend... Like, there was one time where I didn't speak to anybody for 5 days.
That's intense.
And it was, I mean, it really, towards the end of it, I was like, man, I gotta get back, and I gotta go sit down in a restaurant. I gotta go talk to somebody. And it felt really, really weird. It was just like complete isolation like that can
That's
make
intense.
you go nuts a little bit. Yeah.
Wow. So like, were you like getting like anxiety, anything crazy? Any weird thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, no, definitely. Like, this was I mean, ever since I graduated college, I've been going through the hardest time in my life, you know? I feel like it's just been, I don't know. It's, you know, life is hard.
Yeah.
But when I was out in Colorado, I definitely went out there so that I could, you know, try to have this kind of introspective experience where I, you know, really discovered myself or something. I don't really feel like I did, more than anything else.
You should have ate mushrooms.
Well, I know, right? that would have been the best way to do that. But I didn't have any real profound experiences. It was just kind of more like realizing that I don't know, that I needed to grow up a little bit. You know, I feel like it was kind of the first thing that really urged me to start teaching and get a little more serious about, or just a little more responsible. Like, I, you know, had this whole thing where I ended up selling a lot of stuff and moved into my truck and bought a camper shell for it. So I was just living out in that truck, and I was kind of fulfilling this fantasy that I had always had, but it wasn't very fulfilling. It was just like, well, I'm here doing this thing, but I still don't have any answers to the questions that I have about life and everything else. And it just got to the point where I felt alone and secluded, and like I didn't have really many opportunities to make friends while I was there, except for the people that I worked with. And I worked with some really cool people, but it was like we'd see each other during the week, and then afterwards we'd go our separate ways, and then I would be alone in the wilderness by myself in the back of my truck, just like playing my guitar. And I had a lot of great like stuff come out of it because of that, but just internally I was falling apart out there.
Interesting, man.
It was weird. Yeah,
that's crazy. I wonder, like, if you like go isolate yourself, write a whole album, see what happens. Like, maybe it's like the best thing you've ever written.
See, I would definitely, like, isolating myself was great for that, but the next time that I do it, it's going to be isolating myself in a home, not in a
Not in a
not
vehicle.
in the middle of the woods, man. It gets crazy, especially when you're sleeping somewhere new, like every other night.
It's good you didn't see a bear.
It's just, yeah, it really is. It's crazy. I did see.
I see bears. I go to like Red River Mountain sometimes, and I see bears from a distance.
Yeah.
And I'm still like, fuck that.
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like 2 miles away probably.
No, yeah. See, and it was crazy though, because sometimes I would wake up in the morning and I would get out of my truck and I'd look around, and I definitely had like, all sorts of different animals. And I one morning woke up and I had fresh bear tracks that were around my truck and stuff. So something came up and was curious about what was
Were
going
you
on.
scared to eat food out there?
What do you mean?
Like, because they can smell that, right? If you leave, any type
yeah.
of trash out.
Well, to a certain degree, I was I was always good about cleaning up, and I would keep things in the cab, like food. I would keep it in the cab of my truck, and I would sleep in the back. So the cab, I'd always lock it up and then sit or get in the back of my truck. And I think there were a couple of times when I could hear things outside of my truck coming up, but mostly small animals, like nothing too big. Yeah, so one time, there was one time.
Saw a Sasquatch.
Oh man, I do have a story about that. I did get really freaked out while I was out there at one point.
Was it a Sasquatch?
I thought so.
What are your beliefs on a Sasquatch?
Oh man, I'm pretty sure that it's not out there, but I do think that there's a possibility.
Yeah, it's always possible.
It's always possible, but I think that it's probably not. Like I think that at least in the woods, I don't know. See, this is one of those things where it's like we think we know so much about something, and then all of a sudden new evidence comes to light that's like, well,
it's going to be crazy in 40 years when we're like, oh, we were doing that completely wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Bigfoot. I don't know. I feel like we would have found him on land.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's also a ton of like animals we haven't found, but they're pretty small.
Yeah.
Like we would have had to find it, like his bones, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to find some big ass bones somewhere.
Yeah. I wonder how intelligent, if the Sasquatch or Bigfoot is real, like how intelligent is this species? Like, are they human intelligence?
Not intelligent enough to keep having sex, because there's like 10 of them. So
exactly. No, yeah, they're maybe they're like one of those species though that mates like once every 10 years or something.
It's the only endangered species we've never shot, so I don't know what's going on.
But no, the woods do get crazy, man. The woods get kind of scary sometimes, especially when you're out there by yourself. There's, statistically speaking, you're like 3 or 4 times more likely to encounter a dangerous situation or, something to happen. Like when you're by yourself, your chances of not coming back go up significantly.
Oh snap!
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you look at most of the missing person reports in areas like that, it's because they went out to some rural area by themselves.
Yeah, that movie. Is it 127 Hours?
Oh yeah, with James Franco.
Yeah, where he
about
saws
the guy
off his own arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that dude. Like, if just one other person would have been with you,
Exactly.
It's crazy.
And that kind of mentality, knowing that fact, like there were a lot of times that I could go out. I feel like I'm a pretty confident person for the most part, It wasn't really that scary to me to go do that, to, go be completely alone out in the wilderness. Like I don't think
I could handle it. I applaud you.
Well, thanks.
How long did you do it?
I did it for 3 months.
Yeah, it's like after like 4 days, I'd be like, "Fuck, I can't do this."
No, I loved it. It was like the camping trip I'd always wanted, because I've always been big into that, but I just never had that experience. And then definitely like the times where I was alone by myself for like 5 days or something like that. That was kind of when it was a little too much to handle. But that only happened like once.
It's good to know you can handle that, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what I like about camping is like, if we have to do this, we can, because we've like practiced. Yeah, I feel like that's what camping is. We're just practicing for when everything hits the fan.
Yeah, it's weird.
Much.
It's like like intentionally putting yourself in that situation just to prove to yourself
that you can survive,
that you can do it. Yeah,
that you haven't lost your.
Yeah, that was a big part of
animal.
It. Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, there is like the times where you go out there and. yeah, thinking about how, okay, I'm about to go into this place. I'm 60 miles or not. Usually I was more like 40 miles from the closest town, but knowing that it was going to take me, that still, like, when you get on those like dirt roads and stuff out there, it's like a 3-hour drive back into town, even though town's only 40 minutes away or 40 miles away. It's those roads and everything are just, you can only go like 20 miles an hour on some of them. So
Wow. But it wasn't too cold up there, you said?
no, at night it would get cold, definitely, and I'd have to bundle up a little bit in the back of my truck, but it was never unbearable.
So cool.
Yeah.
Like
It
an
was.
adventure, man.
It was crazy, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Did you have any weapons on you?
No.
Poof.
Just like a knife,
See.
and that was it. I mean, and my knife was just like a regular.
Wasn't like a
pocket
a
knife.
hunting knife or anything?
No, I did have like
Man, you're really trying to be that guy.
inviting the danger.
Into the wild.
I mean, I did have a couple like scary things happen that where I felt like I
I'm
should
going to move
get
this closer
Oh,
because
sorry.
I keep forgetting to tell you.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I did have a few moments that I felt like warranted having a weapon. Like one time I was staying on just at this park that was just outside of Gunnison, and a lot of people would go there, so your campsite would probably be like, really close to somebody else that's camping, depending on how far into this area you went. And so I was camping on just like one of their designated campsites. It was a little bit different than the public land. Like you couldn't just go necessarily anywhere. Like you had to camp in one of the campsites in this place. And so I had found this spot that I would camp at sometimes, and I liked it because it was just kind of out of the way from most of the other campers, but it was still close enough where I could sometimes kind of hear other people that were camping in the area. And I remember this one time I would go out there, and it was like this 2-week stretch where I'd go out there like every other night or something like that. And there was this guy that was constantly camping in a spot close to mine, and he was not like a guy doing what I was doing though. He was kind of like a bum. He was. And he was kind of younger. He was like my age, and he wasn't, I guess, a complete bum. He had a car, and he had a tent and everything, but he was definitely like, he was definitely dirty. And
Bro, that's funny. Like he was you, but you're like this bum over here,
well, because
crapping my bum
yeah,
style.
exactly. No,
Trying
yeah.
to be a high class bum right
No,
now.
yeah.
This guy.
I'm such a hypocrite right now. He was this guy though. Like, I could tell he was. I don't know, he would just sit, or every time that I saw him, he was doing nothing but laying down in the shade. And so it was just kind of weird. It was like he didn't do anything but lay down. See, I at least got out of my truck and played my guitar, and I built fires and stuff like that, and this guy would not do any of that. And there was one night that I woke up because I heard something, and I woke up in the back of my truck and sat up, and then standing right there next to me, next to the truck, was this guy just like staring at the window. And this is like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what the heck is going on out here? And he just kind of like was swaying back and forth. He looked like he was messed up on something, And he like circled the truck once, and I just couldn't tell if this guy was trying to like do anything. Finally, I just went, hey, and kind of just yelled, and he just kind of looked over. It was weird. It was like it didn't faze him. He just like kind of looked at the truck, and then he started walking back to his camp spot. And so after that, I kind of moved to a different spot for a while, and I went back, and he wasn't there anymore. So, but anyway, there were a couple times like that where something real freaky would happen and just completely throw me off of.
He was trying to rob you.
Yeah, there was one time when I first got there, I was staying off of this road in Grand Junction called 25 Road that leads out to this BLM land, and BLM is
Black Lives Matter.
It's Bureau of Land Management as far as the U.S. government is concerned, but
they don't know better.
That's funny. Anyway, I was staying in this area that was just off 25 Road, and it's a little bit different. It was like desert area. People would go out there to shoot guns all the time. So it was just weird.
I've
Like,
noticed that about Colorado. Like they still love their guns. Like
Oh,
as
man.
progressive as they can get, they're still definitely pro Second Amendment.
it's definitely the most conservative liberal place. Like,
Uh-huh.
and especially over in that area because it's towards Utah. So that's where all of the, like the Mormon families are and stuff like that. So it's definitely like Gunnison, or excuse me, Grand Junction felt very much like an Amarillo. Like they didn't even have a dispensary in Grand Junction. It was like one of the last places
Okay.
that still didn't have like
Like a conservative hub.
exactly. And it was funny enough, like you're over on the Front Range, which is where like Denver and Colorado Springs are. You'll see a bunch of like Californians and stuff go through there. And so that's like the really like liberal part of Colorado at least. And then there's the Western Slope where you see like all the tourists from Texas are there and that's where I think a lot of the hunting happens too, or at least there's
That makes
definitely
sense.
a lot of it that happens in that area. But on this Bureau of Land Management land, it was also like a place where a bunch of like the hardcore like drug users from Grand Junction would go to do drugs. Like
They had a spot.
they had a spot, like there was this spot out there that a friend had told me early on, like stay away from this place because this is where everybody comes to do their dirty business, And so it was really weird. There were definitely, I camped like near it sometimes and would be able to see it and see all sorts of weird stuff going on, or just like, trucks coming and going at all times of the night out on this like, dirt road that you can only drive 10 miles per hour on. That's out in the middle of nowhere, but there's like, it still garners like a lot of traffic. It was really weird. And there was a time when I was camping out there that a car came up to my campsite before I'd fallen asleep. This is like 11 o'clock at night. And they came up and they like circled my truck 2 times. And then another car came up and parked, and they both had their headlights on me. And I was just sitting there inside,
Holy cow.
locked, and I didn't have any kind of weapon or anything. And I was just really, really freaked out. And so eventually they just drove off. But
Wow.
yeah, I was definitely sitting there
What is
by
that?
myself thinking, yeah, like, what's going on here? What are these guys about to do? Like, how many people are there, Wow. Just so many questions. And knowing that area and seeing the kind of people that I did, like, I definitely, like, walked up on... One time I was hiking around out there and I walked up on some dude just sitting by himself out in the middle of nowhere with like ragged clothes and stuff. And somebody that was, kind of either crazy or just super high, because I like walked kind of next to him and I was like, hey, because we're the only 2 people in like, a 20-mile radius or something like that. So I said hi to him and he just kind of looked up at me and just didn't say anything, just kind of watched me, and it was just really weird. Lots of weird things happen out on those like public lands. Weird people go out there.
It could have gotten bad.
Yeah.
You're protected.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Welcome back. Welcome back to
Thanks.
the,
Yeah,
to the world
right.
of...
Now it feels drastically different to be living in a city and working as a teacher than living out in the middle of the nowhere.
Was it worth it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's say just for the experience and just knowing, I'd always wanted to do it, just to know, know that I could and feel what it felt like, and I did.
Nice.
So it was nice. Yeah.
But how long were you in Fort Worth after that?
Oh, for like a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. Yeah. And I hadn't made a whole lot of money at the Colorado Conservation Corps, so I had just enough for like that month and a half to kind of like get by on, because I figured, I'll get a job.
That's a big drive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I think I don't think I'd stopped in Amarillo on my way through. I think I just drove straight there. But yeah, it was really weird. That was a lot of weird transitions happened in 2018.
That's fun though. What school do you teach at?
I teach at Travis Middle School.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that. I started as a substitute at the end of last year in November.
Mm-hmm.
And now I I started as a teacher though, in January. So
That's exciting.
it's been wild. Yes.
Yeah. You enjoy it?
There are things about it that I really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are things about it that I really do not enjoy.
That's
So
crazy.
I walked into a pretty difficult situation, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
where there was just a lot going on. I took over this teacher's class who had quit, and so it was difficult enough walking into somebody else's mess, so
Yeah,
to say, and
definitely.
like
That's
cleaning it
scary.
up as a first year teacher with no experience,
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do it was just a lot of change that I wasn't ready for. And then our like senior teacher in our department at that school, our English department is made up of 4 English teachers for the 8th grade. And our senior one, who had been at the school and teaching the longest, got really sick, and so she hasn't been there all semester.
Oh, man.
So me and the other 2 teachers, who are also brand new teachers, have had to figure out everything for our department, and then also like help out with her class, grading things and putting together lessons and just making sure that everything's ready to go.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that I was not prepared for. I've never had a job. This is the most work I've ever done for a single job, But it's also the nicest paycheck I've ever received, so that's definitely an
Nice.
A+. And it's really cool, honestly. Like at the end of the day, you're connecting with other human beings, and further than that, you're watching these children grow up, and you know
Yeah.
it is weird. Like there's this part of me that's still like very much a like I said earlier, like I feel kind of like I'm still in my early 20s, and there's this part of me. They're 14-year-old kids, so it's like I sometimes just feel like a kid in the room with them.
Yeah. I've always felt
And
that way, too.
It's weird though, because when you're put in that situation, it's also the kind of thing that makes you feel like an adult suddenly, because you have these kids that all of a sudden want to just start doing stupid things like calling each other names for no reason at all, just trying to start stuff in the classroom. And you're just like, why are you doing that? Stop. Do not throw a pencil at that kid's face across the room. Like, duh. Just think about it. These kinds of things, like,
Yeah.
you're suddenly like so aware of their age and knowing like, wow, yeah, 14-year-olds are emotional creatures. And they're silly,
Yeah.
It's weird.
I feel that. That's how I feel. I got an 18-year-old cousin. That's exactly how I feel. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
We used to relate. Now I'm old.
Yeah, right? Like that's like they asked me who if I like to listen to rap. That was one of the first things they asked me. And I thought, I was really cool. I was like, oh yeah, like I've listened to I listen to stuff, and they like,
I
well,
listen to Biggie Smalls,
yeah, exactly. No, see, and
LL Cool J, yeah, all the hits.
They asked me who I listened to, and I thought, well, I'm gonna list off the modern ones that I know to like show them how cool I am. I was like, oh yeah, I listen to Childish Gambino, Kendrick Lamar, I like Vince Staples, I like ASAP Rocky, and they're like, oh, so old school.
Old school.
I was like, what? And I mean,
I guess there
considering-
is a distinct difference now between like the 19-year-old SoundCloud rappers and 5
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, see, that's it. They're listening to stuff that's coming out like last week. And to put it in perspective, I started listening to Kendrick Lamar with Good Kid, Mad City, which came out in 2012. And that's
It's an amazing album.
yeah, right. And 2012, that's 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So 7 years ago for these kids, they were 7 years old.
That's crazy
So
to think
for
about.
them, yeah. So for them, it's like, yeah, that is kind of old, know,
Yeah.
in terms of that. Like that's stuff that probably older brothers and dad was listening to. And
Yeah,
stuff.
that's their radio songs they heard, and they
Yeah.
were 7. So they're like, oh, this is whack.
Yeah, like I can't remember how Kid Cudi came up at one point, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like Kid Cudi," and this kid was like, "Yeah, that's what my dad listens to." I
Wow.
was like, "My gosh, yeah, this stuff is old." I mean, yeah, especially Kid Cudi, like the Pursuit of Happiness. That album or just Man on the Moon, the first
Man on
one.
the
That's
Moon,
right.
yeah.
That's what it was. It came out in like
2010 or 11, I feel like.
I think it came out even earlier than that. I think it was like 2006 or 2000, like 2006 to 2008, sometime in there.
Yeah. It was
Maybe
probably closer
even
to
earlier.
2008 because I remember it was on an NBA game. It was
Yeah,
on like NBA Live 2008 or something.
yeah.
Yeah, that's older than I realized.
Right. See, there. It's like it, and that's the funny thing too. You know, when you're a kid, like the adults are always saying that time goes by so quickly, or I felt like that was something that everybody said. And now that I'm kind of closer to what I feel like it is to be an adult,
Yeah.
I really sense that. It's like, oh my gosh, like this last week, spring break, it felt like spring break when you're a kid. It's like, oh heck yeah, a week off from school. But
Yeah.
this last week, I'm just like, man, that was not enough time. It feels like just a long weekend
Yeah,
more
man.
than anything.
Time does fly. The older you get, the more these like little phrases make sense.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you don't have perspective, and then you get older, and you're like, oh yeah, time flies really fast.
Oh yeah, man. The fact that I'm 25, I mean, it feels like I went to college. I
Yeah.
went to college when I was 18, and
I
that was
I still feel like I
Forever
shouldn't
ago.
be making life decisions right now. You know what I mean?
right. Exactly. No, yeah, you're
I'm
past
only
the point of, like,
25.
it's like, no, you should have it all together now and working. Like you've got it figured out.
Yeah.
But nope, it's like still trying to fit all the pieces together.
For sure. I forgot. I had a question, but I forgot what it was.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but so you go to Six Car, and you go to 806 open mics. Are there any other places you performed at recently?
Not really. I mean, if I go to a party or something like that, I'll have my guitar out. I did buy a new guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, I bought this really awesome, like red sunburst. I think it's called Cherry Sunburst is like the official like name for it.
Sounds
But anyway,
delicious.
it's this Fender Telecaster from the Elite series. It's
I like all those words. So.
It's a super, super cool guitar, and I got a really great amp to go with it. So I've been making music with that over the last week, just, playing around with it, because I played acoustic, like, since I was 12. So
Nice.
this is kind of I've played electric guitar before. When I lived with people who had electric guitars, I lived with, like, a bunch of different bands over the years, and so I've always had at least an electric guitar around in my life, but I've never owned one myself, so I finally got one. And the goal right now is I've kind of been compiling these songs that I started writing in Colorado last summer, and
Are they really like sad and depressed? Like, I'm in a truck. I hate my life.
no, yeah,
Homeless guy outside.
honestly, like
I think he's got a knife. There you go. I made a song for
there
you.
you go. Yeah, I'm gonna use it. No, there's to be honest though, a lot of them do kind of follow that pattern. I don't know. 2018 was a rough year for me, just in a lot of different ways. I did a lot of cool stuff, but at the end of the day, it was like just a lot of really hard life lessons I had to face in 2018. And I wrote this song last summer. Kind of started it last summer and then finished it in the fall, called Despair. And it's just about the despair of Amarillo, and it starts out, the first line is, "Keep the hell away from Amarillo." Because I was just...
That's already catchy.
See, it was... I guess that's not the first line, but when it first, like, really
I could
gets
definitely
into
play that, at the bar on the jukebox.
Dude,
Just that
honestly,
one line.
this song is like, yeah, it's a song that I played it at some of the open mics, and like a lot of people remember that one. They come up and they're like,
Dude.
"Oh, that song that you played, like the song Despair,"
Yeah.
because the chorus says despair and it's very obvious.
Yeah.
Like, so they come up and they're like, "Oh, that song Despair, that's a great song." I'm like,
That's
well,
funny.
thanks,
You should do like a transition, like
Yeah.
just messing around on stage and be like, this song's called Despair. Keep the hell away from Amarillo. Thank you. And then just
yeah.
then just move on.
Well, yeah, and I mean, honestly, it's like my song to Amarillo, at least in that time of my life, because, yeah, Amarillo, for a long time, I felt like Amarillo was the source of a lot of the things that I hated about my life, you know? It's just kind of like, this place is home, but I don't know. I was kind of in a place where I was blaming Amarillo for a lot of my own sadness, I guess. And some of it was, I guess substantiated by the fact that there were a lot of people dying, a lot of young people dying in Amarillo.
It is true, man.
Especially you look in 2017 and 2018 in Amarillo, all of those like people that are 806 people, there was a lot of different deaths. Yeah. And I kind of felt like I was in that place, and like I was just going to the bar. I was working for, like less than $10 an hour, and just not finding any kind of reason to be in Amarillo, but feeling like I was stuck here, because I feel like a lot of people experience that here. Is like, it's it really is the land of like dying dreams. Like, it's like people come here, and if they're from here, it's almost like, I don't know. Yeah. For entertainers especially.
Yeah, it's hard to build any scene out here. It's for any type of entertainment.
Exactly. It's like, this is, they have the South by San Jack, and I feel like that's the perfect like ironic thing. Like all of these people coming through to go to
go
Austin.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're performing in Amarillo, just kind of like, well, and the thing is like there are a lot of cool people that come through, I'll say that, but at the same time it's like no big acts, like nobody.
We're just gas money,
It's like, what's so funny is that places like Lubbock have at least hosted, like Paul McCartney played in Lubbock,
Metallica
and Jack
just played
White.
in Lubbock.
Yeah, so
that blew my mind.
So,
I didn't know Paul McCartney
and that's
was
the
there.
thing, is like it's such a big thing when an act like that comes to Lubbock,
and
which
Buddy
is
Holly's
2
Lubbock,
hours away.
So that's cool. That's always cool.
Right, yeah. And I mean, there were some like country artists and stuff. See, that's the only way to make it in music here. Is like you gotta be playing country.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. What's that guy? There's a guy from Amarillo who's Skylar's friends with. It's like Aaron Watson, maybe. I don't know.
That name sounds familiar.
I don't know.
That name
I don't listen
sounds
to country,
familiar.
but there's a guy from Amarillo who's like made it pretty big.
Yeah. A lot of the country, if you play country here, you've actually got kind of a decent chance, because I mean that's what the majority of people are listening to around
that's what
here.
the majority.
At the end of the day, it's conservative Texas, like
absolutely,
and that's what they like to listen to. So
very true, man. But yeah, I feel a lot of the same sentiments as that. Like I want to build a scene here, but then I was talking to a guy, and he was like, "Man, you just got to move on. You don't wait for Amarillo to catch up to you, because it's not going to." And he was like, "I tried to do that 10 years ago."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Damn, that's a good ass point."
Yeah. See, that's the thing, is like, I mean, it's already going on somewhere else, so why is it going to happen here?
Yeah.
It's like
fair assessment.
There's nothing really new that Amarillo has to offer in the way of most of these kind of entertainment, like doing comedy or music or art. It's like, yeah, there's definitely a place for it here, but if you want to be, I don't know, if you want it to be, it's not going to become a thing that Amarillo is known for, like Austin or, LA or something like that. There's a place where those things are already going on, and they figured out a way to do it where it's really successful. That's the place for it.
Yeah.
And Amarillo, I don't know. It's weird because Amarillo does have a lot of like uniqueness, just because it's like got this harsh contrast of, it's super conservative, super Republican, like Texas farmer land. And then when you look at like the counterculture, it's like a direct contrast of that, and interesting because of it, because it's standing right. It's not like a place where people are invited to be whoever they want to be. Yeah. There's definitely a community where that's happening, but the community where that's happening is pretty weird. Yeah. I feel like, and definitely creative, and there's a lot of like energy there, but it's just not big enough to, to compete against the regular culture that's going on here. It's not like that side of things is never going to, support the counterculture artists and stuff that are trying to do their thing.
I don't know, man. Trump might legalize weed. Might see a whole wave of people coming to the counter side.
What? Sorry, say that one more time.
Come to the dark side. I said Trump might legalize weed, then we'll just see a wave of people just be like, you know what? Let gay people get married. Let's go paint.
Yeah. Man, I think that, yeah, I think it does need something like that to happen for this place. But then again, it's like if that happens here, it's just going to be Amarillo, but with weed, because then every other place is going to have weed too, you know? Like, so it's not going to make this place any more special than other places.
I'll be the first one to say this. We need another Stanley Marsh. I'm just playing.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's probably the only person that's going to say that.
I will go on record and lose my job.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, there's some really hard rooms in Amarillo like to perform in.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a benefit to it as well, because it's like if I can go here and everyone hate me for 10 minutes, and then I go to Austin or LA, you know, those people are actually paying attention. So
Yeah.
maybe I like to think it hardens you. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my thought process. It might. I don't know. See, there's no rules to like entertainment, so you don't know. Like I want to do like perform here for 3 years, get through all that shit. And then I'll be ready, or maybe it's 5, or maybe it's 2, or maybe it's right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that part of the reason it's attractive to do to perform here is because there's not a whole lot of competition. For one, like you can be, you know, decent and people know you because you're putting yourself out there, because not a whole lot of people are. So like with music and stuff, if your music is even just slightly different than country, it's like people will be like, oh, you're an interesting performer. Whereas if you play in like Nashville or Austin or something like that, people don't care. It's like you're just another guy doing that thing, you know?
That's true.
But so I think that there's this kind of, you know, incentive to do it here, because then you get familiar. And also if you're from here and you've spent time here, then you have a lot of connections there, because people that are doing those things are wanting to make the connections with other people who are doing it, because it's not like there's just another musician around the corner or another comedian, you know. It's like you got to actively seek each other out, or at least the kind of like musician that you want to like be associated with or something like that. But so with that being said, it's like there is that opportunity. I feel like it's a phantom opportunity though, to start something new. It's like it's there, but there's just not enough traction.
You can only go so high.
Exactly.
And you have to accept that.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, there are people who, you know, have found ways, I guess, to break through it. Like Hayden Pettigo is a good example of somebody who's like put himself out on like at least a national map.
Absolutely.
You know, doing what he's doing, and his music has been really successful too.
I haven't listened to his music really, but I saw he was like did a score for a movie.
Yeah,
and he's going to South by Southwest, right?
It's weird. Yeah, there's Rolling Stone wrote an article about him.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was about to ask if it was Vice, but yeah, Rolling Stone.
And then actually, like a few years ago, Vogue or one of their like smaller magazines or something like they published an article about his music.
Nice.
It's just like, how does somebody like that like find, you know, like I want to know what his secret is. That's what I want to know.
I thought about inviting him onto the podcast, but I didn't know if it was like, I'm a politician, you know, I can't do this, or
seems like
that sounds silly. I don't know. I might reach out to him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I've talked to him. Have you ever met him before?
Yeah, I've met him once at Golden Light, and I talked to him a little bit at the 806.
Yeah.
He probably recognizes me, I think. I don't know.
He's around, and he's into the thing that I've been seeing him do a lot of in the last like year. Is he's really into just experimental music and doing some really, really crazy stuff. But like noise band kind of things. But anyway, yeah, he'd be a cool person to have on the podcast, I'm sure. And
his ability to go viral, that's impressive, man.
See, that's the thing is like, yeah, that little Amarillo
those videos were hilarious
campaign. You know what? I liked them, but it kind of caught me off guard when it became this thing that everybody was sharing on the internet. I was like, okay, I get it, but I think it was because I don't know. It's just such a kind of bizarre thing for this 24-year-old to
Yeah.
run for city council and
It's the
like a place like
counterculture.
Amarillo. Exactly. Yeah, I think that Rolling Stone article even says something like, it's a perfect contrast on the West Texas canvas or something like
Yeah.
that, and it talks about that, the conservative or just like the way that this area is, how it's just kind of a red area, and then
Yeah.
something like, like Hayden Pettigo's thing is just, I think at first it was not supposed to be taken any kind of
I
serious.
don't think it was either.
And then he kind of went with it.
It's
like,
absolutely
okay,
hilarious.
I'm gonna go.
I don't know if he
But
does
yeah.
it for comedic effect, but he never changes his tie.
And I
think
that suit and everything.
I think
yeah.
that's so funny. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or he only has one tie, but it's funny to
it's
me.
definitely on purpose. I think. That's funny though. He's made several of those videos now. I
Yeah.
know that he posted some picture of him. He actually played a set at South by Southwest. I think in just like one of the
Did it happen already?
small venues.
Oh yeah, I guess
yeah.
it did. Spring break, yeah.
Yeah, he played in like one of the smaller venues, but he got signed on to be like an official South by Southwest performer.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, like this guy is like incredibly successful for an Amarillo young person,
Absolutely.
and especially doing like anything artistic or something like that.
I didn't even know he
so-
was 24. I thought he was a little bit older than me.
No, yeah, he's
Just like, what the hell am I doing?
I think he's younger than us. But anyway, he's somebody that I know has been around in Amarillo for, I think he pretty much grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
And he started releasing music when he was still in high school. He was a part of that band Western Plaza that actually got some kind of, some short-lived recognition in the big world because they signed on to Burger Records, which was like a yeah, I know.
Are you making up names right now?
No. They were a cool band. That was oh man, what are those guys' names? I know. So Luke, the barista at the 806.
Which one's Luke?
Luke is the quiet one.
He always wears the hats?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I talked to him at R&R not too long ago.
Yeah, he was the bassist for Western Plaza, and then oh man, what's the lead guy's name? I can't remember. Shoot, I've met him before, but I've only talked to him a few times. I think it's Austin. I don't know though. Anyway, Hayden Pettigo was part of that, and they like got signed to Burger Records, which was it's a pretty small indie label compared to like some of the bigger ones that are out there, but even so, it's still like impressive for an Amarillo band like that to get signed to any kind of label
Absolutely.
like that, because nobody's like paying attention to what's going on in Amarillo as far as that stuff goes, but they got signed on. And anyway, so Hayden's been a part of all of these little things that have been semi-successful at least, and or at least more successful than what most everybody else is doing.
That's very true, man. Yeah, he's putting Amarillo on the map. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
And so did that land hurricane. Did you?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Was it actually a land hurricane, or was that like? I don't know if someone
man.
made that up, or if they're like, this is the term.
I don't know. See, I did see something get posted about that, like sonic storm or something like that. But it was that was a windy
Yeah.
day. My neighbor's tree, big giant tree that they had in their front yard, fell down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame because it was a really cool tree. It was really nice and it was really huge, but it fell down. And so many my parents had a tree blow down in their yard.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really crazy storm, man.
What's
It really
the
was.
craziest part to me is like we had 80-mile-per-hour winds, and everyone was just like, "Nah, it's windy," like we're so used to that shit.
Well, I feel like at first it was like that, but then they had to shut down I-27, and
yeah,
they had to
semis got blown down.
Too many cars were getting blown off the road. It was like a serious deal.
Yeah, it's insane. We've had so many windy days, or it's just like, it's just a windy ass day,
Yeah.
We
yeah,
recovered pretty quickly.
Exactly. I was talking to my sister who lives in Fort Worth, and she was saying that sometimes it gets windy there, and the winds will get up to like 45 miles per hour, and they'll have sirens go off in town. And she's from here, so she was just like, it's so silly sometimes what they call windy or wind there compared to what it is here. Because it does, man. When that wind starts blowing out here, good Lord, it's nightmarish.
We got too much weather out here, man. That's really.
Oh man, yeah.
I think it's Amarillo's problem.
Like people are always saying.
Here.
I feel like that's like a joke, yeah. That a lot of people say about their own city, like, oh, Chicago's windy, or we get all sorts of different kinds of weather up here in Portland, or something like that. It's like, no, you have no idea. I mean, because literally Amarillo. I mean, just this last year. It's like every other day so far this year has been either extremely cold or warm. And it's just like it will start snowing, and then by the afternoon, everything's dried up and it's 70 degrees. That was literally something happened that, happened just like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like
it started
2 weeks ago it
snowing.
snowed.
And then it was, later that day it was 70 degrees. It was just like, what the hell is going on? This place is nuts.
Yeah, savage weather, man.
Yeah.
That's why people don't want to go outside. They're
No
hardened.
joke.
They don't need entertainment.
No joke. I'll tell you what, though. I live across the street from Memorial Park over by AC. And I look outside, and there's always people at that park. That's where I don't know if you knew this, but Amarillo has like a LARP group, or at least two of them.
I've seen them at Amarillo College.
Yeah, there are two of them that meet up there like every Sunday, and you'll see them like
I honestly want to
doing
try
their
it.
thing.
After I watched Role Models, I was like, that could actually be fun.
I know. It looks crazy. But yeah, there are always people at that park, and I'm always looking out thinking, man, I need to like spend more time doing stuff outside.
Yeah.
But
I feel like we need to be outside more than we are, man.
Yeah.
I feel like as
that's the
human
truth.
beings, we just need to be outside.
After Colorado, I was like, okay, when I move back into the city, though, back into a house, I'm not going to spend all my time in the house. But that's exactly what's happened. I've started. I spend a lot of my time just like playing the guitar. So I feel like that's justified. Like you can do that outside though too.
Yeah, you can.
Not with the electric though.
We get that vitamin D. We get the energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like we get energy from the moon too. I don't know how it works. I've just heard that.
I would imagine that, the moon. I really think that something that is underestimated is just like how many things are actually influencing your mood and your personality and things.
That is crazy.
Things that are going on.
That's why I don't get into horoscopes, because I'm like, I don't want you to tell me how I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, and I think
get out of my head.
Horoscopes are, like astrology is kind of a goofy thing, but at the same time, I do think that there are influences there that we don't really know or talk about that much. And, like they always say that weird stuff happens during the full moon. I am a pretty skeptical person for the most part, but that one is something that I've kind of noticed myself. Every time there's a full moon, it seems like weird stuff is going on. You know?
I've always it's weird because every time I've sacrificed a person, it just coincidentally it was a full moon. Like I wasn't.
You weren't planning.
I didn't plan that out. I don't know.
That's so funny. That's exactly what happens to me.
That probably happens in the Colorado forests.
It's weird. My house does this thing.
Did you see any Wiccans?
Any Wiccans? No, but that is dude, honestly, one of my biggest things, my goals in life is to either participate in some kind of seance, but really it's to walk out into the middle of nowhere and discover some really crazy, cultish type stuff going on. And
that's okay. I'm not going to co-sponsor that one.
Good luck. I know. I think it would be nuts to find something like that, because it's such a Hollywood thing to me to think about that. Like, I feel like that was something that was popularized, or that was everybody went kind of crazy in the 80s thinking about people sacrificing other people to Satan and stuff like that. But kind of some stuff was happening actually in Panhandle where I grew up in the 80s. Yeah, some guy is still in prison because he killed another kid in a sacrificial ritual. Some satanic he was pretty nuts. Yeah, that's how the story goes, But anyway, no, it's a true story though too. That's what's crazy about it. Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah, but I feel like it's one of those things that's, it doesn't happen as much as like, you see like horror movies about
Yeah.
it, but it's really not going on, but
Well, maybe it is.
I want to know.
Did you see that thing where it was like, I forgot what Trump did, whatever he always does, but they were like, all the witches in America are putting a spell on Donald Trump. It's like, who are all these witches?
Oh my
And
gosh.
why are we not doing something about this? Like, shouldn't we be lighting them on fire? Like this? It's just crazy to me.
Oh man. Yeah, that's nuts. I think that I had this thing with the girl for a minute, a very short minute, but she was some old friend that came through town, and like she came to visit me because we were kind of talking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
This was last year actually, and she started telling me about getting into like witchcraft and like Wiccan stuff, and it was just like, it was something that I definitely could see her getting into, but it was definitely like, oh, okay,
Hard
so
pass.
you've gone a little bit, you've gone a little bit crazier than the last time we talked,
I don't need any penis spells. It's okay,
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Stay away.
No joke. Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah, I've met a couple people who were like, I'm Wiccan. Like, all right, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm gonna stay over here.
See, I'm always down to. I've always been. I don't like buy into any of it, but I will be the first one to raise their hand to participate in any kind of like, let's see if we can talk to the dead, or let's see
honestly,
if we can like
I've never seen one
summon
witch
some demons.
turn into a cat. Not one time. So they're lying.
So it's not true. It's not true. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you what though, one of the hardest things I've ever done, like I've always been fascinated by that stuff though. Like people, because I feel like to a certain degree, there is some sort of something that is true, even if it's just the minor, the smallest thing. It's
dark
like,
arts.
people have been, like, there's this whole mystical side to our existence that, people have been talking about and discussing about in different ways ever since human beings have been around. There's like this, there's magic that gets talked about, of some kind.
True.
And I've always wanted to, if there is something out there, I want to know about it. But like every time anybody tells me a ghost story or anything like that, most of the time I'm like, okay, yeah, that's bullshit. Like I don't really believe it. Or I think like, okay, I feel like they feel like they saw something, but the reality is that it was something completely explainable by, rational means.
I've never experienced a ghost. I don't, maybe I'm not like on the right frequency. I don't know how it works.
See, that's the thing. I feel like
I've heard some crazy stuff.
I've heard some crazy
from
things
from some people like I trust. So
exactly, that's the hard part, is because there are those people out there that aren't trying to put something past you. Like my dad is the most rational person I know, but he's got a ghost story, and it's like he has no other story like it. It's the one unique one, and it's just like, how did this happen to you? Like, how did you experience this thing? And anyway, so I do think to a certain degree there's a lot of unexplainable stuff that goes on, but none of it's ever happened to me that made me think, oh, this must be a ghost. Like the first thought, that's what cracks me up, is that so many people, like, you hear the ones who are really really superstitious though, and they'll be like, oh yeah, there was this like knock at my door at 3 a.m. It's like, so your first thought is that was the spirit of a dead person like coming to your house to like wreak havoc in your life and make you scared. Like the fact that so many people jump to that conclusion when something unexplainable happens, oh, it must have been a spirit, or it must have been God, or there's all sorts of different explanations that people like use like to explain something that they don't understand. And I'm super skeptical of all those things, because it's like, well, why can't you just be content with it being something that you don't understand or can't explain, And so to give it that kind of definition is weird, but at the same time, people swear on it. They're like, no, I have talked to my dead relative, like standing
scary.
in front of me, like people saying stuff like that.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I know.
I wouldn't be comfortable doing that.
I will say this.
Like, so when you die, you just hang out. Cool. Like that's.
Yeah. I don't
want to know that.
I did have one time where one crazy thing happened, and that was kind of like that. And it was the night that my grandma died. I had called her on the phone, and it was really, really weird. I was living in San Marcos, and my grandma was living with my parents in Panhandle, Texas, and I knew that she had been sick, but I didn't know that she was like dying sick. I just thought she was like an old person who always got sick, so I'm thinking my grandma's sick, and
Yeah, you never know which one.
yeah, and it had been on my mind, like, I need to call my grandma just to say hi, and it just like struck me one night, like I was sitting there smoking cigarettes with friends on our balcony at the apartment that I lived at, and I just got this sudden urge that I needed to call my grandma. It was weird. It's something that I had not felt before, just this, like, I need to call my grandma right now. So I called her, and she was like on her deathbed, like dying. My mom answered the phone crying and was like, oh, hey. So nobody had called me, for one. This is the part of the story that I'm upset about. Nobody had called me to tell me, hey, Granny's Granny's on the way out. You know,
seems
I
like an
just
important phone call.
Exactly, right? So I had to be the one to call in. But no. I called in, and I, asked if I could talk to my grandma. Well, she couldn't talk. She was like in a really bad state, but my mom was like, oh, I'll hold the phone up to her and you can just talk to her. So my mom did. She held the phone up to her, and I just, I talked to my grandma like I would have on any other occasion, where I was just like, hey, I just wanted to call and see how you were doing, make sure you're doing okay, and tell you that I love you and tell you that everything's going all right with me, and just kind of some standard stuff. But she didn't talk back, and my mom got back on the phone and was like, okay, yes, that's probably going to be the last time that you talk to your grandma.
Man.
And so sure enough, it was. But that night, like, I went to bed, and after I got off the phone, I kind of, cried a little bit and was just talking to my friends, and we were supposed to go out that night, but I ended up just going to bed because it was like, no, my grandma's dying. Like, I didn't feel it. And so...
That's tragic. That's a tragic story too, man. That makes me want to cry.
Well, it was, but it was kind of like, she was old.
Yeah.
It was like gonna happen. But that night I went to sleep and I had a dream, and my dream was I was back in that same situation on the phone with her, only this time she was talking back to me. And so like, it was, it was kind of weird. I just explained it to myself, like, it was nice for me to just have that dream and everything. But at the end of the day, like, I told that to somebody immediately after it happened the next day, this friend that I had there in San Marcos, and she was like, you were talking with her spirit. You were. And
maybe so. I don't know.
Yeah, I was, that's what I said to her. I was like, oh yeah, probably. But inside I was like, no, I think it was probably just a dream mostly, but I don't know. That's one of those things. Like, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
See, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, that was me actually having a conversation with her. But dreams are peculiar in general. Like,
Dreams are.
Why do we have them,
That
so
is
I think
crazy.
there is a lot of unexplained stuff going on with dreams.
Yeah, there's a lot of random dreams, and you're like, did that mean something? Or was that like...
Yeah.
Because you hear about people having visions.
Yeah.
And you're like, am I just ignoring my dreams I'm supposed to be following? Like,
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, yeah.
I need a notebook.
Sometimes, and sometimes you'll have a dream that just sticks with you.
Yeah,
that you're like,
that's crazy.
Why did I have that dream? Or, it makes you second guess your life, and just like
you forget all your dreams
really intense...
immediately, and then there's that one where you're like, oh, why am I still thinking about it?
Especially like horrible nightmares where you're like, how did I even imagine those crazy things happening? Like, some of them, it's dreams are...
Have you ever been able to lucid dream?
Oh yeah. I went through a phase where that was like something that I was really into, and
I've
just
only been
thinking
able to
about
do that in horror dreams, where I'm like,
really?
this is just a dream, I'm going to turn it off.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dang. Yeah. It usually happens to me, like, I have to have been thinking about it. Like, generally speaking, I won't just wake up or, have like sudden consciousness in my dream or be aware that I am dreaming. It's like something that I have to have been thinking about for a while. So maybe tonight, after talking about it here, I'll have one. But anyway,
this is the Lucid Dream podcast.
I did get to a point though where I was kind of like, I was thinking about it enough to where I would generally like fall asleep and then just be like, oh, I'm dreaming. And then I would start to, see if I could like play around with, the reality of the dream and stuff. And I had some pretty strange. It's always weird though. It's like I never have full control.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Like, I've heard people tell me they have full control. I've never been able to do that.
No. Like, I have had dreams where I've had, like, close. Like, I've been able to change things, like almost always. No, never mind. I'm forgetting that I'm speaking on a public podcast that people are going to listen to. See, now that I'm a teacher, it's like I'm constantly aware of like my public persona.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
I really got to watch what I say and what I do because I am. I mean, not that I have to. That I am such a horrible person that it's such a concern for me, but it is like like cursing and stuff like that. Like I don't know, but. Anyway, in my lucid dreams, I'm almost always trying to do something, silly, I guess. But it's like my desires will be weird, something that I can't control in my dream almost, where it's like, oh man, I'm just really in the mood for some ice cream.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I want to see if I can explore space and time in my lucid dream. It's almost always like somehow still connected to the dream where I'll be in a certain situation and I'll realize that I'm dreaming, and it's not like I think about changing the whole situation. It's like I'm thinking about changing small things in the situation where like, oh, I don't want this person to be here, so that person's going to get up and walk away or something like that, and so they do.
Oh,
and then somebody else comes up, though.
But
see, because
that's
the thing.
Pterodactyl to come scoop it up.
That's exactly it. See, because it's like I can't have like full control. Like I don't. There's still a part of my mind that's very much involved in the dream itself, and like it doesn't think, like my mind won't think beyond the situation almost, where it's like I can't. I don't know. I did have some, like I remember one time in a lucid dream, I was walking around in my old junior high school that I went to growing up, and Were you teaching yourself? No. No, I was being taught. It's weird. A lot of my dreams are about being a child again. I wonder what that says about me. But anyway, a lot of them...
Probably means you're a serial killer.
Probably. I'm actually pretty messed up. Just keep having this dream of being a child and seeing this man come into my room and... No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we are wrapping it up.
No, I'm just playing. But I
didn't know how to respond to that.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm playing. But I do have a lot of dreams where I'm like a child again, or at least I'll be like with my old childhood friends. I don't know. It just kind of depends on the situation. But I feel like a lot of dreams I go back to like the school that I grew up in.
Nice.
And just because I guess I spent the majority of my life there, so that's probably why. But anyway, I remember one time in a dream I was walking through the old junior high and I realized that I was dreaming, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. I want to be at Wonderland Park, actually, is what I was thinking at the time. And so, like, I walked out of this door into Wonderland Park.
That's so
I was
cool.
like, oh, hell yeah, that's cool. But
nice.
Anyway, yeah, it was there are like times where I had, you know, some control over the dream, but never like, oh, I'm changing everything about everything, you know. I never have that much control.
Yeah. See, my dreams get super random, so I'd be like, I want to go to Wonderland Park, and then I'd go to Wonderland Park, and there'd be a guy like throwing chainsaws at me or something wild.
Yeah. See,
extremely random.
It is funny that you said like most of your lucid dreams happen like when you're having like a nightmare or something like that. A lot of the times that it's happened for me, I'll have sleep paralysis. And so I'll be dealing...
Is that where you stop breathing?
No, that's where you like... It's kind of like lucid dreaming where you realize that you are asleep, but it's like you can't move. You're kind of more... I don't know. It's really weird.
Okay,
it's
then I don't
like,
lucid dream. I have sleep paralysis.
Dude, it's like where you can't move and you feel like you can't, like, you know, you can't do anything. Like, I'll always feel just immensely tired. Like, my body, it's like I'm in my dream trying to wake up and I can't. And so I'm constantly caught in that place of, you know, that feeling like that you get right before you fall asleep. it's like being stuck in that, and it's scary too because you're just sitting there and you want to get up and move and you want something to happen. And a lot of times, like, sometimes I'll have sleep paralysis with my eyes open.
Oh,
And
snap.
so I'll see the room around me, but I'm also dreaming at the same
You
time.
can do
so
that?
like, oh yeah, like that happens to me a lot. And in
What?
fact, I just sleep. I've been told that I sleep with my eyes open. So I am a serial killer.
That's
I am a
terrifying,
psychopath.
bro.
I know. But
How
it's
do you
like
do it?
it's
You
like
sleep
halfway
with your eyes
open.
open.
It's not like all the way open. It's like, or not even halfway, but I will, like, sometimes I'll be dreaming.
I'm scared right now.
It's weird. Sometimes I'll be dreaming, and so I'll be seeing the room, and like waking up, my dream will, there will be like a weird, like,
There'll be like a little girl in the corner going, la, la.
no, stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that has happened to me. Like, there was one time where I was sleeping. I was taking a nap on the couch at my parents' house, and I was having some dream about like flying over Vietnam or something like that, and seeing all these troops, like, army troops on the ground.
Was 80s rock music playing?
No, it was John Fogerty's or Creedence Clearwater's "Fortunate Son." You know that song?
Yeah, yeah. That's actually the one I had in my head.
Yeah. But no, I had that dream that I was seeing all of these guys on the ground, but I was waking up as I was seeing this stuff, and what I was really seeing, it came into focus. Like, in reality, I was looking out the window through the blinds. All of these trees were blowing, and the shadow of the trees blowing around on the blinds is what I was seeing. But in my dream, that movement and everything looked like people on the ground moving around. So it's like I woke up to what I was actually seeing, which was so that'll happen sometimes.
That's
And
like a mild hallucination.
yeah, exactly. Like,
That's wild.
especially if if I have sleep paralysis, I will be like awake and see my room. But weird things happen, man. Like, people will walk into the room who aren't really there. And like, I had a dream once where my sister, like, I was having really bad sleep paralysis, and my sister came in and she was trying to wake me up and just like, "Stewart, wake up, wake up, wake up," and just pushing me around and stuff.
What were you doing that made her do that?
I was this was part of my dream. I thought it was real, and I don't know, she was just trying to wake me up, and because I was trying to wake myself up, and
I
she
thought maybe
wouldn't
you were
wake up. And
sleepwalking or something.
finally, I used to sleepwalk a lot as a kid.
I did once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
After I watched a pirate movie, I fell asleep on the couch during the movie, and then I like woke up holding a glass of milk. And my mom was like, "You just kept like jumping on the bed." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Whoa. See, I've never woken up while I was sleepwalking, but I've been told that, like, when I was a kid, it used to be a problem. My parents would be like, "Hey, did you even know that you were walking around last night?" It's like, no. And I would go outside. I would like let myself outdoors and stuff and do all sorts of weird stuff.
Did you put any pillows in the oven?
No,
No,
didn't
okay.
do that.
It's too bad.
Nothing too dangerous, I guess. But yeah, sleep has been. I have really bad insomnia now. I just get insomnia real bad. I can't ever go to sleep unless I take some kind of something to help me. And
Heard about that. That's rough.
I hate it, man.
Sometimes I can't sleep either. That's like maybe like once a week.
I'll tell you
every once in a while.
the best sleep of my life that I ever got was when I was in Colorado. Like, sleeping outdoors, it like forces you to fall into the rhythm of nature. Like, the sunrise and the sunset. Like, after the sun goes down.
Circadian. Is it called circadian?
Yeah,
Rhythms?
something.
I always say
yeah,
it wrong.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, and it was weird. Like,
I probably butchered that word.
it's either circadian or circadian. I think there's an R in there.
Close enough.
I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, I got the best sleep of my life because, 1 or 2 hours after the sun goes down.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't really have. And anyway, you're just out in the middle of nowhere. Everything else is falling asleep around you. Like, it just makes sense. And then, so my mornings would be real early. I'd get up at like 5, and it was just nice. Like, have the whole day ahead of me.
Nice.
Felt fresh.
What did
wake up
you-
to that mountain air.
What did you do
It was
on like
cool.
on an average day?
Well, I mean, so most of the time during the week I was working. So the workday the workday would start at oh man, was it 6 or 7? We'd either start at 6 or 7, I can't remember. But we'd start early, and we were usually just camping in a. We'd just find a spot to camp, like four of us together. We'd find a spot out in the wilderness near one of the sites that we had to go inspect, and so we would go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and at like 5:30 or so, and start getting ready. You know, everybody was in charge of kind of their own breakfast, and then we would get in the truck or whatever we had, or we'd just hike sometimes, but we'd have to get to a location to scout out. So we'd get to that place, and then we would strap up herbicide backpacks. So just backpacks that had, you know, herbicide in them. And they were heavy as shit.
What does herbicide do?
It kills plants. So we used it to, yeah, right. We would use it to kill like invasive species though. So it was really, it's beneficial actually for the land. Like,
is it hard to find the correct plant?
At first it was kind of difficult, just because there were a couple different ones that we had to look for, and the training that we went through for plant identification was not as thorough as it could have been, because we were shown like one example.
Did you ever come across like a wild THC plant?
Oh, well, there is a plant that is that grows everywhere in Colorado, and the leaves look just like pot leaves, but it's a completely different plant. So I saw a lot of that, and I definitely could have run into a pot plant at one point and mistaken it.
Yeah, not noticed.
For this other one, yeah, because unless you sit down and like you start looking at it, then you can tell the differences, you know. It's like, oh, this actually has more leaves than a typical like pot leaf, you know, but it has that like fan look like the pot leaf does. And it's very, very distinct. When you see it, you think you're looking at pot, you know. But did run into a lot of weird plants out there, like some of them that I just had no idea what it was. And it's really weird once you start becoming conscious of what plants are and what they look like and stuff. Yeah. You start like, you know, you can see the differences in just like one piece of vine, and then you start realizing like, whoa, this forest is actually made up of, you know, thousands and thousands of different species of plants, and like, all of them are different. Yeah, it's really weird, but it's cool. And the ones that we were looking for, we were mostly looking for Canada thistle. And there are like hundreds of different kinds of thistle. And so sometimes it became difficult to identify one type of thistle from another type of thistle. So
thistle.
Yeah, there was all sorts of it.
What'd you do when you found it?
Spray it most of the time.
Oh, it was killing other plants, or
well,
what made it invasive?
Yeah, it's taking over. It's like killing other plants. It's invasive. The term.
So it's like controlling the population.
Yeah, it's
somewhat.
Like it's not supposed to be there in the first place is the thing. It's like it's something that traveled like with people from a different area.
It's kind of insane, right?
Yeah, it's really
the way
weird.
we bring plants and animals to places they don't belong.
Exactly. No. That was just it. So it's like it's just one of the many different kinds of invasive species that are there. So it's not supposed to be there. And they want to preserve the forests for, you know, as naturally as they can. Now, that's hard to do because, you know, even if we were to leave it alone, it would go through its own natural changes and become something completely different after, you know, even hundreds of years. It would become something kind of different, you know.
That's true.
But the goal is to, you know, make sure that it doesn't have plants in the area that are going to completely wipe out the rest of the plant population. Because the thing is with Canada thistle, it grows really, really easily in disturbed earth, and it doesn't take a whole lot of nutrients and just things in general for it to grow. So if there's a patch of land that gets, stirred up a lot of times because people are going in there to chop down trees to use for firewood and stuff like that. And if there's that disturbed earth there, then it'll pop up, and it won't just pop up there. It'll start spreading out and taking over what's around it. So it's it can potentially, hurt an area pretty bad.
Canadians.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we need to build a northern wall. I've been saying this for years.
I know. I don't understand why we're spending all of our time and energy trying to build this wall down south. We need
Keep your damn thistles out of here, Canada. We've had enough. Appreciate that. So what would happen if jobs like that didn't exist? Like we would just lose. Would we lose like species of plants? Like if your conservation job
there
wasn't
would be,
happening.
Yeah, that's what the majority of the work that the U.S. Forest Service does is just nature conservation in general. And there's a lot of different things that can happen. Nature conservation is something that is definitely, a big focus in like Colorado and stuff. But as far as like Texas goes, this is something that we need to be more aware about as Texans. Absolutely. Because there are so many different things that can affect the ecosystem, and I
hate seeing like going to Powder Canyon and just seeing like cigarette butts and cans everywhere. Like, what the hell are y'all doing?
And see, the thing that I'm not going to get too into politics, but everybody's like really big into building the wall right now, and especially a lot of Texans are really big and are still for the wall. But looking at it from a conservation standpoint,
it would mess up a lot of
like there's a lot of just animal traffic that passes from, even the fence is still hurting some of that, but if we put a wall in there, it would stop basically all of that movement. So there are like different kinds of animals that migrate from one area to the next, and if you put up a big wall like that, well, they can't do that, and then you start seeing all of the different effects of all of these different animal species dying. For instance, another thing that like everybody's really big into the wind energy right now.
Wait. So we can just build a wall with foxholes?
I guess you could.
But then people will throw their babies under.
Yeah. That'd be it'd become a way to let people through. But anyway, just getting back to Colorado.
Like, go back to windmills.
Well, with the windmills, see, like everybody in Texas is really big on that, especially in this area because they're popping up all over the spot, and they're kind of an ecological danger because there's so many birds that are just kind of stupid. Birds. Yeah, and so anyway,
I've been told, you probably know way more about this, that like the solar energy and the wind energy it takes like an incredible amount more compared to fossil fuels. Like it doesn't really produce the same.
No, I couldn't tell you. I know that I don't think there would be as many windmills as there are if there wasn't a substantial.
That's true.
Like if there wasn't some kind of substantial benefit from having them, because I think it's I will say this though. I think that as we move forward and we look for more ways to create renewable energy, those wind turbines are going to become obsolete within the next,
2 decades.
50 years, 100 years. Those things are going to become obsolete, and then what's most likely going to happen is that they're just going to stand out there for years because they're all over the place now.
Yeah.
And so they're these big giant things that cost, millions of dollars to put together. Even just putting one of them, I think, is like, definitely over a few $100,000. Yeah. And I mean, each one is like probably $1 million project, and they're everywhere. And so to take them down, it's probably going to be just as expensive or, whatever. But so nobody's going to want to do it though, because taking them down, you don't get money for taking them down. But it's going to become a technology, I'm pretty sure, that's going to become, or a way of harnessing energy that's going to become somewhat obsolete, because we're going to figure out a better way to do it.
That is crazy to think about.
I think it's like, it's one of those things that on the surface it looks like such a great answer, like, oh yeah, we'll use the wind to supply us with our energy. Yeah, it looks cleaner. It's it's this. I don't know though. I think people have the wrong idea about it. Yeah. I'm no expert though.
Yeah,
definitely no expert. So I can't speak with like ultimate authority on this, but I do think that we kind of put all of our eggs in one basket when we should be using that, those monetary resources to fund some other kind of renewable energy project. especially because it takes up so much land. And another thing that I really hate about them, they're just such an eyesore. Like,
Yeah.
there's something that's kind of nice about being able to drive out in the country here and just look at nothing for miles.
For sure.
That is kind of like, at least for me, in the landscape in this area, that's like the trademark. But now you go out there and it's nothing but these big wind turbines, so it just looks like,
There's a ton of them.
yeah, it looks like a place that's another place that's just doomed by industrialization,
Yeah, that's a
when
fair
it
point.
should be, I don't know, it feels like one of the last places that's kind of untouched by, I mean, all of it's touched, but still kind of untouched by society and what society does.
You can go to Antarctica and touch some untouched land.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think they've even been across the whole thing yet.
No way.
I was reading something
yeah.
on that.
Something interesting that I just recently, this is in connection to, one thing that I've been talking about a lot with my students is like space exploration and going to Mars, the colonization of Mars and what
Yeah.
Elon Musk is doing to,
What's he doing next? Is he launching more cars?
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, just the SpaceX program in general and knowing that that's something that's going on where they're still working towards putting together.
I support that so much, just like private space exploration, where
Yeah.
we don't have to wait for NASA or any other, just billionaires. Just like, yeah, I'll shoot some shit up there.
Yeah.
That's
right?
awesome. That's really cool.
I mean, no, I think it's great too. I think it's cool. But at the same time, something that Bill Nye said I thought was interesting. He was talking about how, there's this big push to colonize Mars, or to start thinking about ways in which we could colonize Mars. And
Isn't that moving backwards though?
see, one of the things that
In what circumstance is Mars going to be more inhabitable than Earth?
See, yeah, Bill Nye was saying that he's like, it's a lot like Antarctica. It's a great place to go and do research, but to live there, it's not, something along those lines. Like,
Yeah.
it's not very ideal to go and try to, start a family there.
Yeah, like
It's
even if we run out of water, we used to have water. You know what I mean? Like it still rains here. We're gonna go to Mars and be like,
yeah,
haven't had water in
it's like,
10,000 years.
I mean, especially when we have so much trouble, like trying to figure out, like, we have destroyed our ecosystems.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, I mean,
insane.
I'm a firm believer in climate change and global warming and, things are changing and it is because of us.
You know what the problem
And
is? Vaccines.
Vaccines, you
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah, I think we were supposed to lose more people. You know what I mean?
No,
if we
yeah.
had less people.
I think that we're too good at keeping ourselves alive.
Yeah,
I definitely think
exactly.
that. Like, as far as, I mean, it feels very much like we are just, producing more people
Yeah.
without thinking. I mean,
Pull the plug, get them off life support. You know what I mean?
we fall into a lot of those like moral like dilemmas that we face as humans, where it's like, well, is the sacrifice of one better for the many? I don't know. It's weird to think about, and I think in terms of like what's happening with the Earth, it's it's easy to say, well, yeah, we should get. I mean, just looking at the numbers, it's like, yeah, we have way too many people.
Yeah,
we need
especially
to figure
in
out a
India
way
and
to
China. That's the thing. Is like I was listening to a podcast that went over the top of climate change.
Yeah.
And they're like, America is actually leading everything. Like we contribute 15% of the pollution to the world, and the rest of it is China and India.
Yeah.
And it's like we went into that deal. I don't know the details of it. That I don't know the deal Obama made about global warming, climate change initiatives, all that, where we were like paying countries to like be more conscious.
Yeah.
India and China weren't even like following their shit. They were just like, screw it, we're gonna keep going. So
yeah.
like if we can't somehow convince these other countries like, hey, this is an issue, then I mean we're kind of screwed. Like it's kind of crazy. Like because he was saying it might in the future, people are gonna be starving. Like other countries are gonna be more hurt, but it could lead to us sanctioning people and us actually like going to war over the environment.
Right.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Because going to war probably destroys the environment.
No, yeah, it's like, trying to put out a fire with another fire.
Yeah.
Like, that is something I think humanity has done all of the time. That's always it, like, solving a problem by
Mm-hmm.
creating another. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm a person that drifts between cynicism and, like, blind hopefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm never on one side of the fence. Like, I'm always like, oh no, humans are horrible things that are just destroying everything and are
Mm-hmm.
evil. And then there's part of me that's like, well, we're doing it so that we can
Yeah.
make it and be okay. And
There's some great things we do.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
about 50-50,
Like,
I guess.
yeah, exactly. Like, there's no room for salvation or hope or any of those good things without having the bad things, I guess, too.
That's what I've always thought about that when people are like, don't litter, don't throw your trash out. But it's like, isn't a superhighway trash? Like, isn't building a whole downtown area pollution? Like, aren't we?
No joke. Yeah, yeah, that's basically,
And we just covered most of the country in tar.
yeah, no joke.
I don't know. Just what I
It's-
think about.
Yeah, no, at the same time, though, there are those, like, it's like something like the highways or something like that. That's kind of like an agreed upon pollution. It's like we have to, no matter what we do, we're going to be destroying
Yeah, we're gonna fuck
something
something up.
in some way. But that's the goal, right? Is that that's the whole goal behind conservation, is figuring out where you can do it and the best way to do it without causing too many problems.
Yeah.
Like, because we have to face it, like, humans are as much a part of nature as wolves or, anything else, plants, animals, all of that. Like, we are a part of it. We are contributing to what is nature. And we are something that is helping make nature what it is.
Absolutely.
At the same time, like, we're in a place where we have more control over nature on a global scale compared to any other kind of species, that our actions, cause greater consequences, and what we're doing has, potential to be, disastrous, not just for a certain area, but for the entire world.
That's why I think natural disasters, those are just God, like, humbling us and bitch slapping us and be like, you're not in control. Like, you thought you were, but I just hit you with a tsunami.
Yeah.
So calm down, bitch.
Dude, things like that, though, too, I also feel like, yeah, in some way they're human caused, whether it's because of what we were doing, physically, or what we were doing morally. We deserve it, though. Isn't that funny, though? Yeah, that's like, we can make all these big changes, but then in a moment, like, something can happen that just completely wipes out everything.
Like that California fire last year.
Oh my God, dude.
That was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, billionaires were losing their houses.
Oh yeah.
And that's crazy because you went to, like, the mecca of, like, luxury.
Oh,
and
see,
you weren't protected.
Exactly. And that's something that, it's funny, those kind of fires and stuff that we have now are, they're like, forests are supposed to experience natural fires. Like, it's just part of nature, like lightning
I was
strike.
going to ask about that earlier because they left a bunch of dead wood out. Like, they made some rule where they couldn't pick up dead trees.
Yeah,
And
like,
that's pretty much what caused it.
well, there was, at least in Colorado, one of the big problems is, like, over conservation. Trying to protect an area too much, so too much firefighting and stuff like that. One of the things that has become a real big ecological problem in Colorado is a bug called the pine beetle that has become just a disease for forests, because this beetle will just eat pretty much any tree, like the pine trees, which is the majority of the...
Like, a lot?
Oh yeah, like, just completely wipe out certain areas. You go
Really?
through certain areas, in Colorado.
Do they run in, like, large groups?
Oh yeah, they're all over the place. Like, you'll notice it because you will drive into an area. If you're driving through an area where all of the trees are falling down and stuff, it's almost certainly because of pine beetles. And the reason there are so many is because ever since, like, conservation efforts and the U.S. Forest Service started fighting fires more, it has caused this beetle to explode because they used to get killed by the fires. So like
Oh,
fires
snap.
would come through, and while it would destroy part of the forest, it would also kill this beetle, like large populations of this beetle. So
That's
it kept it
insane.
kind of like maintained. But now, because there's so much firefighting and stuff,
Oh,
it's
man.
allowed this beetle to like, just blow up. So now it's actually
Wow.
worse for the forest because they're causing more damage than the fires did initially, because they're just going through and eating entire forests.
That's irony, man.
Yeah,
That's
It's
crazy.
like, yeah, so you don't see the big thing about conservation too is that you don't really truly realize how interconnected
Wow.
all of these things are, and something that you do that you think may be helping may actually be making
Yeah.
things a lot worse in
So
the
if
long
we don't
run.
do anything, we screw
So
ourselves.
it's one of the
but if
one
we
of the
do something,
yeah.
we screw ourselves.
Exactly. It's one of the fields where there's constant debate about like
Yeah.
what to do, and a big one of the or a big concern for people all over the world is water. And where we get our water, we all need water to live. We all need fresh water so that we don't get sick and die, and we all
Yeah.
need water for all sorts of different things. And anyway, there's water gets affected by everything that's going on in the ecosystem. So if, it's not raining enough somewhere, if it's raining too much, or, all of these different things, and then what we use the water for, water rights are like the biggest thing. And so in Colorado, that is where the majority of the whole nation's like water comes from. They're sourced in Colorado, or at least that's where the headwaters start for like all of the different major rivers and stuff in Colorado, or excuse me, in the United States. They all start in Colorado. And so there's
All
this
the major rivers start in Colorado?
basically, yeah.
Wow.
So
It's like our Garden of Eden over there.
it's really wild. And okay, so I believe that that's accurate.
I'm
not
gonna
quite sure.
quote you on it.
I may be part of this, may be just my brain trying to solve.
Stewart's a compulsive liar.
Yeah,
is what he's trying to
that's
say.
yeah, exactly. No, but it is weird. Like, there's all of these different groups that, because the headwaters start there. There's all sorts of different debates going on because, the water that starts there ends up in other states, and so it's like, who has the right to control this water? Like, if they want to build a dam or something in Colorado, they've got to like sort it out with people out in all of these other
Wow.
states to see because it could
Yeah.
affect them.
Does it go through it has to at some point, like through like native lands?
Yeah, exactly. That was what the big the big pipeline arguments were about
Yeah.
a couple years ago. That was like their concern was that I believe that at least with the what pipeline was it? The big one, the
I couldn't tell you right now.
Keystone
Yeah,
pipeline.
Keystone. That was definitely it.
I think that one was passing through not through Native American land, but it was passing through like underneath a water source that affected their water source. And so that was their big argument, like, hey, if this thing blows, like, we're potentially facing a really, really bad disaster here where we're not going to be able to survive any longer if that water source gets,
And that's intense.
compromised by that. Yeah.
After
So-
the 3 BP oil spills, or maybe I don't know how many.
Oh
there's been.
man, yeah. And you think
insane
about
amount.
that's like, and that's a mistake that we just can't, like, you can't clean it up.
Yeah.
It's like you can do something, but once you've made that mistake, that's
You gotta start cleaning
it's a
the birds off.
long-lasting mistake. That is a mistake that I mean, there's no saying sorry about
Yeah.
that mistake.
I mean, who
It's
knows?
like-
Who knows what we've done to that ecosystem? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's there's no coming back from that. It's like it's literally something that's going to take another 1,000 years before
Yeah.
it even gets somewhere close to
How
where
many
it was
species
before.
did we screw up? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. How much of the ocean did we really fuck up just then? Yeah.
Animals we didn't even discover yet. There probably was the Loch Ness monster, but we threw plastic at it, and now it's dead.
It's so funny. Some of the things I'm just noticing, like while we're talking about this, and every time that you talk about any of this kind of stuff with people, it's like we always assume part of the responsibility, where we say it's something that we did.
Yeah.
We caused this. We're including ourselves in the humankind. The bigger picture, making it a we thing instead of a they thing. Anyway, I just think that's an interesting thing that we do, is that we make it about us, and I think that is also shows though why it's the other side of that hope, where there's bad things going on, but we're not directly affected by the BP oil spill, at least in the sense that we're not as directly affected as like a seagull.
Yeah, but like I didn't get shrimp for like 3 weeks.
No, exactly. But no, it's funny that we see that as a major problem that can affect us. And we take responsibility for it too. And the ability to take responsibility for it is, I think, an important thing, like for all people to be able to do, is to say like, hey, no, this is a group effort, because there's not one person that's going to be able to solve these kind of like ecological disasters and stuff. It's like we got to be in it together, and we got to realize that we've got to make decisions as a community, as a global community, to like do things to improve our environment.
For sure.
It's a hard thing to do, but something
it is.
We have to do. It's like a responsibility for all of humanity.
Absolutely. But I feel like a lot of people get turned off from it because of how political it's become.
Exactly.
Because of how much, like, it's an issue, but then these politicians get a hold of it and they're like, well, they're all going to die in 5 years. We have to get rid of cars. And it's like, you've never been in the Midwest or the middle of the country where people live 50 miles away. Like, we can't all just get in taxis with you or Ubers or whatever. Like, these people just live in a bubble. And they're just saying things that they know aren't true. They're basically fear-mongering it.
Yeah.
And then like the people on the other side see it and they're like, oh, well, this person said that, so it's all fake. So none of it's real, so I don't need to worry about it. And it's like, there's a middle ground. Well, but it's like so divisive right now.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, is like there's especially with politics, like there are people who are constantly trying to fight for the ideal world when they really should be fighting for something that can exist realistically. Like people that are something that a group that kind of grinds my gears a little bit is the
Nazis.
Like PETA. Yeah, the Nazis definitely.
PETA too.
But no, like PETA,
More so PETA.
like definitely like tree huggers and people who are just like against killing animals in any way. It's like, no, I can understand if you're like against, like industrializing farming, where we've just got all these chickens stuck in a cage together,
that
getting
makes sense.
sick and stuff like that. It's like, there's something morally wrong with that, but like just killing animals in general, no, that's something that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, like it, there's definitely like, especially when you have like overpopulation of one animal or something. I mean, it's exactly like what I did with plants. Like, you have too many of one kind of plant in an area and it could screw the whole thing up. So you got to get rid of them,
Yeah.
And so
like we have overpopulation of hogs.
It's
you
like,
can't kill enough of those. They destroy everything.
It's like idealistically, or ideally, we want to say that, killing is wrong, or, that these things are not okay. But realistically, sometimes these things need to happen. And I think that, with politics, that's a lot of times what people don't have. They have, I don't know. See, it's really difficult because I feel like as a politician, you do have to have that hopefulness that things could become the best that they ever could be.
Yeah.
That's what you got to say to people to convince them, I mean, at least some people, you've got to offer them that kind of fantasy or that kind of like goal in order for them to want to work for it. Because if you tell them we're never going to reach that, then they may not do anything because they're like, oh, well, we're never going to get to this point. But if you offer that and say, this is what we can do.
Yeah.
Even if it's not possible.
I
don't know.
It's just
weird.
too much
it's
of
like,
a tribe, like team mentality where it's like, I voted for this guy. He's the head coach. I agree with everything he says. And it's like this. No one should have that mindset.
Well, I think it just comes all down to, the values that people have. Like there's somebody like me who definitely like values, conservation and, efforts to save the world.
But not everyone sticks to their values.
Well, and see,
when the other side does
too.
something, when they do something, it's like, oh.
And then there are people that, value like Christianity above all else. And it's like, okay, so, everybody's got their thing that they're trying to fight for, and then others are, trying to fight for, gender equality or for, race equality and stuff like that. And while all of these things are important, it's like the extremity to which people like value each one of those things is different for every person. So like, I think that one of the things that I'm upset about with our current society, I guess, is that everybody has a platform on social media and the internet to basically promote whatever their minority struggle is. And it's like, people are being oppressed because they're in a minority group. Anybody that's a part of any kind of minority group is being oppressed by the grander society in some way. And it's unfortunate, and these are things that need to be solved, but there's no one answer to it all,
And there's no quick solution.
And there's not enough, there's so much going on. It's like every time you get online, you're seeing somebody, try to promote something else like, hey, we need to be aware of the community of the deaf people. We all need to be aware of that. And it's like, okay, well, so let's do something for them. And then you get back online and it's like, well, we need to be aware of blind people too. We need to be aware of these people and these people and these people. And you get to the point where you're talking about everybody in the world, but putting them all into terms of their minority group, And it's like, there's no way that we can give everybody the attention that they deserve.
And social media has made every tiny problem a huge one.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's only a matter of time.
Outrage culture.
Yeah, the outrage culture. They were complaining about Will Smith being in a movie about Serena Williams. He was going to play her dad, but her dad has darker skin than Will Smith. And people were really on Twitter being like, I can't believe you're doing this. There's darker actors. You chose Will Smith. And it's like, this is really what we're complaining about?
Yeah, like how far has this race debate gone?
How perfect is your life where that's your problem? Where you wake up in the morning, Will Smith, he's not dark enough. Like that's so weird.
I know. See, it's like, the problems are changing. And definitely, as messed up as this may sound, we are fortunate to have problems like that.
Extremely.
We're
in a wonderful place.
Yeah. We are, I do think that we still have, it's obvious that we've got problems with, race relations and stuff like that. And especially, that's just something that's been going on in America ever since its foundation. Yeah. But I do think that we are in a much better position. People are talking about it now more so than ever. And I think that that's, I think that is kind of the positive side to all of this, is that people are aware of the importance of minority struggles. Because, for a long time, I feel like, there was definitely this, what you saw in the news is what you had to be concerned about. But now the news has changed entirely. Like, the news comes from all different kinds of sources and stuff. So it's like your concerns can be many, and your ability to be aware of things. Like, that's the information age.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I always get caught up thinking, well, the information age has like allowed us to be more knowledgeable about things, but at the same time, I feel like it also like there's so much truth that's lost in this sharing of information because there's so much misinformation that's getting spread around as well.
They're just sensationalism.
Yeah.
Just headlines. They're picking a side every time. Like, I feel like news used to just be news. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when I would Google some information, current events, I would just click on the first link. But now I'm like, okay, whose side are they on? If I click on this link,
exactly.
Like, what bias am I going to be reading?
It changes the dynamic where news sources are used to be expected to be the ones to do their fact checking, but now it's the reader and the viewer that is like, expected to do the fact checking
later.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we get it wrong, we won't apologize.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stand by it. Yeah, there's so many people that like they're wrong and then they just stand by it, stand by being wrong, and it's like how, like even though they're shown this evidence in front of them, we're like, no, you're wrong about this. You said the wrong thing. Well, we did our best with what we had at the time. It's like, okay, well, hey, no, that's what I hate. I think I hate most about different media outlets is that there's just so much of that going on. I worked for the news for a little bit.
Oh, me too.
And oh, really? Where did you?
Well, I worked for Amarillo Globe News, the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. How long did you do that for?
Oh, for like a year and a half, I think.
Really?
Or maybe just under a year.
Nice. What did you do while you were there?
I just made ads, like, and sold advertising spots.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I would like, at first I was selling advertising like door-to-door companies,
Yeah.
cold calls and stuff. And then I also made like ads in the classified section. So people would come in and be like, I want a estate sale. And then I'd like make a little thing for them.
Yeah. Nice. That's cool. I worked for Channel 10 for a
Nice.
little bit.
What'd you do there?
I was a photojournalist. This was the beginning of 2018, actually.
Are you on call all the time with that type of job?
Not all the time, but definitely at least 2 nights out of the week I was on call. Although, to be honest, I rarely got called out when I was on call. But it was definitely, there were some, if I was already at work, there were a lot of times where I had to stay overtime and just work. When I was supposed to get off at 5 or 6, I'd end up getting off at 9 or 10, and that kind of sucked. But it's for the news.
Did you go to school for journalism?
No, I got my degree in English, actually.
Oh, nice.
So kind of, my degree was English. My concentration specifically was creative writing, and then within that, the majority of the creative writing that I did was nonfiction creative writing. So I would write about like different things, but it was more like right, yeah. Well, it's like, how have you ever? It's like any book that you read that's nonfiction, where it's like it's a literary nonfiction, so it tells it like a story, even though it's a true story.
Yeah,
it's like
putting a voice to it.
Exactly. That was kind of what I mostly focused on, just because I don't know, I liked it at Texas Tech. I liked that program, and I liked the professor that I had that was like kind of the top of their creative writing nonfiction department at least.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was just something that I kind of fell into and I really enjoyed. But yeah, I got into the news just because, oh man, this is at the beginning of 2018, I had moved back from the Philippines after, working on a job there. And, I came back to Amarillo and I just needed something. And I had all of these friends that worked for Channel 10. And so they were able to get me in the door,
Nice.
Yeah.
I applied there for like media sales.
Oh yeah.
Because like when I graduated with a degree in advertising public relations, and they were like, most people when they graduate they go into media sales, so go apply over there. They didn't call me back though, so yeah.
Man, yeah, Channel 10 was fun to work for, but I don't really have any kind of frame of reference for their sales department. Like it was the news though, so it was hectic all the time and every place. Yeah, the news.
That's
It's
exciting.
crazy. Yeah.
Was it? Because I feel like most of it would be boring, right?
No, I mean, it was like my first day there, I went and shot. My first shoot that I went on was a fatal car accident. And
Did you get a lot of blood?
no, I didn't see a whole lot of blood at that one. I did at a couple of them, though. And that was one of the hard parts about the job, is that sometimes you would be faced with just looking directly at somebody else's personal trauma. And it was like one of those things that definitely like makes you second guess what you're doing and why you're doing it, because that's not news. Somebody's car accident where they die, like it's news if it's holding up traffic and stuff like that, where you can report, hey, there's this accident over here. But when you're getting in there with the camera and looking at somebody's like limp body,
oh man,
it's like, yeah, that was one of those things that was hard to do and exciting, but at the same time, it definitely took an emotional toll on me, some of that stuff. And so we went and shot a lot of the fires that were happening at that time, last year around this time. It was like the driest Amarillo had ever been. Like they hadn't received rainfall in like 7 or 8 months or something like that. So there were fires happening all over the area. And,
good times.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. And that was kind of cool, like just to go out and, we got to like shoot from certain vantage points that the public wasn't allowed to go to, but the like firefighters and police would let us through and go and set up in a certain designated spot to shoot the fire. Yeah, so that was cool. You know, you get to, there was that element to it, doing the photography part where, you know, I was like filming stuff, and it was nice. It was fun to get like creative with that and like try to look for the best angle to film something, and learned a lot about just camera angles and stuff like that from doing that. And it was fun, but at the same time, yeah, it was just like, for the money and everything that I made there, just at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. It was like, you really gotta, it was a soul stealing job.
I could see that.
They just want you to work all the time, and it's like, you're expected to just do so much, and it's really like, if you're not trying to get a career doing it, it's really not the best job. It was a fun experience, but yeah, definitely not something that I would do forever, you know?
Yeah, no, I had a friend whose job, I don't remember what the job title was, but he'd go up to like a crime scene, and he'd be like the first person there to like clean up and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And that sounds like, he only did it for like 2 weeks, but it sounds like the most depressing job of all time.
Oh man, yeah, I can imagine. At the same time, it was cool because you know, we'd occasionally went and shot some like inspiring stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is cool.
Got to meet people that were doing really great things in the neighborhood, and people who were, you get to know a lot about like local government and stuff too. Just knowing what's going on in your city, and like who's running for what office, and like, yeah, see, it's one of those things like, I mean, not just local government too, like, you know, the government on all levels. You get a closer look because you have to report it, you know, so you have to like know about it. And so it was cool. I explored more of Amarillo during those 5 months working there than I had ever before or after, you know. And I grew up around here, but I saw parts of Amarillo that I did not know existed just from working there, because you get sent everywhere.
That makes sense.
So it was
like
cool.
There's some places I really haven't been around.
Yeah, neighborhoods that you just never would have thought of. All sorts of different things like that.
Have you seen that movie Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Yeah, with
I think he's a
what's his name?
photojournalist.
Yeah,
I can't think of his name right now.
I know. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
There we go. He yeah, that movie's great. That's a crazy movie. That's
that's what I was thinking about when you were describing your story.
It was never as like crazy as that. I mean, like LA, I'm sure LA news is wild,
yeah,
you know,
like
big city news like
37
that.
people got murdered.
Yeah. Amarillo, every now and then you get something crazy like that. Like last year, there were a couple of different things, like a cop that, well, somebody went into what is it? It's like a downtown rehabilitation place. I can't remember what it's called. Mission City.
Oh yeah.
There was a guy that went in there one day with a gun, just like a kind of crazy homeless guy from off the street went in there with a gun, and somebody was trying to wrestle it from his hands, and when the cops showed up, they saw this guy with a gun in his hand, but it was the guy who had wrestled it from him, and so they shot the guy.
Dang.
They shot the dude. He survived. He's alive, actually.
That's
I don't
good.
think he ended up pressing charges either.
Really?
Yeah.
He's entitled to compensation.
Right? Like, they just, like, Amarillo PD just issued an apology, and they were...
Slide me $1 million.
From what I understand, they were kind of off the hook. Because, I mean, especially in their situation, they had, you know, they have seconds to react or whatever. So one thing that I did like about working in the news, especially when you're working a story like that, you get to see both sides of the story at face value, you know? So it's like, and especially like one thing that, you know, there's all this concern in our world that, or in our, you know, country, it's like, or, you know, our people reporting the facts, and working for like at least a local news station. It was like, we never had an agenda that we were trying to plug, or it never felt that way. It always felt like, no, let's try to get the facts of the story and show the story for what it was. So yeah, it was nice because you got to see, because it forced you to investigate both sides, where especially in something like that, where it's like, you know, were the police right in this situation, or, you know, was this guy just acting like a jackass or what, you know? And got to see what they did, and got to hear it from all different angles. So you really did have the best, most informed opinion on the matter, but you didn't report your opinion. You report the facts.
For sure. That's really good. That's awesome. And, dude, I feel like we could keep going forever, but we're at 2:20.
Dang.
So,
Yeah.
we can move to wrap it up. I do want to talk about the Philippines. I mean, I have to invite you back because,
Okay.
yeah, it was a really good conversation. We went everywhere with that. So, yeah, it was fun, man. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here,
you
man.
want to plug any music?
Yeah.
Any upcoming shows?
I don't have anything upcoming right now. I do have some stuff that I'm working on that's kind of under wraps for right now, but there will be some great stuff coming in the next few months, probably in the summer. And anyway,
Nice.
But for right now, I do have some songs posted online on my Bandcamp. It's just my name, stewartcowan.bandcamp.com.
And I'll leave a link for that. And yeah, I wanted to talk to you more about music, but I just have to bring you back.
Next time, maybe we'll have a more organized conversation.
Yeah, well, the beauty of my podcast is that it's not organized at all.
Yeah.
And so, like, we still had a great conversation. It's just, it wasn't planned.
Yeah.
To go
definitely.
that way.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for coming on. Stewart Cowan. What's your Instagram?
Stew_cow.
Stew_cow. All right. Check this guy out. Thanks for being here. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day. Are you Irish?
Oh, yeah. There's some in there.
Nice. Drink green beer.
Will do.
See you in class tomorrow.
All right.
Oh, wait. I'm going to play one of your songs. Which one was it?
Oh.
I played Strangers.
Any one of them.
All right.
If you go to the website, the first one on there is pretty good. It's Bitch and Moan. It was
Bitch and Moan.
just got a nice little flow to it.
Here we go. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.